Let's go out to Wembley Stadium now. Tiffany Blackman is there. Tiffany, always a lot of excitement surrounding these London games. What's the mood like there now with 30 minutes to go until kick?
Dan, what a fantastic atmosphere. The energy is high, the music blaring, and the fans are still taking their seats. And when I look around, they're not only supporting the Bills and Jags, they are wearing a number of different jerseys. They are fans of an international NFL. And yesterday, all were invited down to Regent Street to help kick off the game with a little extra help from the Ohio State University Marching Band. Hundreds of thousands of people filled London's iconic Regent Street to get the ultimate international NFL experience.
We're huge sports fans here in the UK, but we love the NFL. I think it's brilliant that it's come to Wembley, come to London, and yeah, the more the merrier.
The home team Jags took center stage first.
And the support's been awesome. You know, the 2 times I've been here, it's been a ton of fun.
No, it is exciting, definitely. It's good to be able to have a chance to actually go to a live game.
Then it was the Bills' turn.
Thank you so much for coming out here and all the support for the NFL and things. It's outstanding. Can't wait to see you tomorrow out there and helping us lead us to victory, okay? Thank you so much for coming out.
All right. There they are, the Buffalo Bills.
A lot of fun yesterday, all business for these teams today. On the injury front for the Jags, running back TJ Yeldon is active and will start the game. And Dan, as you mentioned before, the Bills dealing with a rash of injuries. Receiver Percy Harvin not in London. He notified the team earlier last week that he needed some time away for personal reasons. It's unclear when he will return. Now, fellow receiver Robert Woods told me that he and other teammates have told Harvin they are here for him whenever he is ready to open up. Dan?
Tiffany Blackman at Wembley Stadium in London. So a lot of injuries and a lot of intrigue surrounding exactly what's going on with Percy Harvin right now. So all is not well. If the playoffs started right now, Buffalo would be the first team out at 3-3. After last Sunday's blowout loss to the Bengals, not good in the locker room right now. Mario Williams seemed to be questioning the team's defensive tactics.
Some of the calls that we had today, we just didn't have 4 guys out there rushing and certain situations, things like that, but you just play the call. I probably set a record on dropping today.
How about those contact lenses? Marcel Darius agreed, saying they pay us a lot of money and we want to use our talents the best way we know how. If we're going to be dropping, we don't want to get any questions about not getting sacks. All right, TD, what exactly is he talking about here?
Well, let's take a look at this. You see Mario Williams standing up right here, 3-4 formation. He's a defensive end. He is now going into the zone read. He's in no man's land. He's not rushing the passer. He's not in pass coverage. Let's show, and that was last week. Last year, hand in the ground, going upfield, making a great move right there on right tackle Dallas Thomas. Look at this move. Nice swim move. Over the top, makes the sack. So that's where he's built for. He's built to rush the passer, not standing up, going into coverage, and that's what they're talking about, Dan.
All right, Heath. The first 6 games last year, the Bills' defensive lineman had 14.5 sacks. The entire team through 6 games this year has 9 sacks. That ranks 25th in the NFL. So I understand why they're questioning the defensive tactics, the scheme. Do you go public and question the coaching? Because that's what they've done here.
I always say no. I would say, how'd that Buffalo Bills team finish last year? Not very good. That's why there was a coaching change. Rex Ryan, has he won a championship as a head coach? No. But I can tell you this. He's forgotten more defensive football than Darius and Williams have combined ever had. So trust the process. You're not just playing the Bengals. You're not just playing the Miami Dolphins. You're playing a collective talent throughout the course of the year. Rex Ryan, the best defensive mind I ever lined up against. There is a plan and a process. You're not just playing this one down. And you're not just trying to get sacks. You're trying to put a plan and process that when you play Tom Brady, you play Aaron Rodgers, there is a collective book of defensive plays out there that those quarterbacks are thinking about what's coming.
Okay, the problem here is they're 3-3, right? And if you're 3-3,
it's
and
not
you
the
feel
defensive
like
fault,
it doesn't matter. It feel like if you can help this team, you get sacks, put pressure on the quarterback, and you're not utilized the right way, you have to say, listen, coach, I'm better at rushing the passer than going into coverage. Now, I don't know in New England, you guys, that whole robot up there, everybody just do what they do. But this ain't that.
That robot wins a lot of championships.
Well, you said it right.
That robot is
You said it right. When was the last time the Bills won a championship?
They have.
When's the last time the Rex Ryan won a championship?
He has never.
my point.
I would say this,
so
to his point, they are better rushing the passer than dropping into protection.
But
when you're trying to
down.
beat the best, there is a scheme put in place. And do your job, shut your mouth, humble yourself, trust the process.
You can't do your job if the results
don't be a dysfunctional.
aren't there.
Don't be the results. It hasn't been the defensive 3-3. It's not their fault.
Now, what I don't agree with, I don't like the public. I don't like you coming out to public saying what's happening. We all kind of keep things in house. That's the only thing I would say.
Rex Ryan did jokingly say, yeah, absolutely, I changed my entire defensive scheme just because of what these two guys said. Maybe
we'll
not. All right, the Bills blitz Andrew Luck 25 times and then Andy Dalton just 13 times. We'll see what they do against Blake Bortles today. The Yahoo pregame show continues after this.
The countdown to kickoff is underway. Still to come. Find out the tragic circumstances Bills All-Pro Marcel Darius overcame on his way to NFL superstardom.
Why you keep taking everybody away from me that really matters to you?
Plus, TD and Heath will tell you who is going to win Sunday's other big matchups. And
I'm James Corden from The Late Late Show, and I'll be right back with my pick for today's game in London.
So stick around. The world is watching. This is the NFL on Yahoo.
NFL on Yahoo pregame is brought to you by new DQ Bakes Oven Hot Snack Melts at participating locations. Welcome back to the NFL on Yahoo pregame, presented by Dairy Queen.
Mario Williams on the field for the Bills. Let's check in with Kevin Harlan and Rich Gannon, who are calling the game from Wembley.
Dan, thank you very much. We've got pleasant temperatures here in the London area. A dry day, a sunny day, as you can see, for the Buffalo Bills and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Buffalo Bills come in about as depleted as any team you're going to find. Gone their starting quarterback, the right side of their offensive line, their two top receivers, one of their best guys in the defensive line, Rich. They've got a lot of issues today.
Yeah, it's hard to have a lot of continuity and consistency with so many injuries on offense, but they are a much different team with the health of LaShawn McCoy in the lineup, as we saw last week, the first play of the game. He shows you why he's such a difference maker. He's so good with the ball in his hands, and he always seems to make the first defender miss. He has great vision and instincts at the point of attack, and his suddenness and his change of direction ability is phenomenal. That's why he is such a tough tackle in the open field. It seems like he has eyes in the back of his head. Of course, he's got that straight line speed that you love the running back position.
On the Jacksonville side, they've lost 4 consecutive games, but there are a couple of young receivers that have caught your eye for the Jaguars.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Blake Bortles has put up some big numbers the last few weeks, and that's because he has 2 receivers that are off to a terrific start. Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns have already combined for almost 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. Both have big playability in the passing game.
All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Buffalo Bills. Let's take you back to our host, Dan Hellie.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Plenty more to talk about as we get you set for the Bills and the Jags. Let's take a look at some of the key games this Sunday around the National Football League, shall we? A key AFC East matchup between the undefeated Patriots and the one-loss Jets, and the banged-up Steelers trying to keep rolling against the Chiefs. At 4, it's an NFC East battle, the Cowboys and the Giants, in the night game as the Eagles visiting the undefeated Panthers. Let's start with the Pats. Heath?
All right, if you're talking about the Jets getting a win, you better hit TB12, guys. If you don't get pressure, you're going to be in trouble. The Jets, they're good at hitting the quarterback. They're not good at sacking him. I suggest they sack him today. Give me TB12 and the Patriots winning this one.
Well, I think the key right here is run Chris Ivory. He's the 4th leading rush in the National Football League. Shorten the game, limit Tom Brady's possessions. I have the New England Patriots winning this game.
All right, the 3rd different starting quarterback of the year for the Steelers. It's the Steelers and the Chiefs, Heath.
Ooh, well, Le'Veon Bell is the key. Why versus the Chiefs? The Chiefs have one thing. They rush the passer. How do you neutralize the pass rush? Run the ball. Well, you've got arguably the best back in the game to do so. Landry Jones, Le'Veon Bell, and the crew. Give me the Steelers.
All right, Landry Jones is the quarterback there. I think the Chiefs want to defend the short game, force him to throw long. Last week they did that. 2 picks against Teddy Bridgewater. Today, they get it done. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs at home.
Cowboys, Giants, another new quarterback, and your former teammate, Heath.
Yes, I like Matt Castle. I think we're going to see the field for the Dallas Cowboys offense stretch a little bit more than what Brandon Whedon's been able to do. Obviously, we know their defense is key, running the ball is key. I'll take the Dallas Cowboys.
Last week, Eli Manning, got to protect him, was sacked 3 times, had 2 intentional grounding calls. This week, they get a visit from Greg Hardy and the Dallas Cowboys. Give me the G-Man at home.
A big test for the Eagles as they're taking on the Panthers, Heath.
Who do I trust more, Sam or Cam? Give me Cam. We know what Superman's capable of doing. Listen, been a rough start for Sam there. Super talent, but yeah, give me those Panthers.
Luke Kuechly came back last week, 14 tackles. His ability to read and react and diagnose and play action and misdirection. Luke Kuechly, give me the Carolina Panthers at home.
Coming up next, Marcel Darius shares his amazing story of perseverance from poverty and tragedy as a boy in Alabama to an NFL All-Pro.
Growing up, it was a struggle, right?
A real struggle. I lost my dad when I was 8.
Wow.
Grandmom, grandfather. So I'm just fighting through it and steady playing ball and got the world on my back.
There is Marcel Darius and the Bills getting ready to take on the Jags at Wembley Stadium in London. That big, fat, new $106 million contract. Darius is ready to go. He was a first-round pick back in 2011. Marcel Darius has experienced the highs of success in college and the pros and the lows of personal tragedy. NFL Network's Michael Silver took a trip to Buffalo to see how the man they called Mr. Big Stuff overcame big odds to become an All-Pro.
Marcel Darius, the number 1 pick out of Alabama.
If you ain't out there right now, you don't need you right here with me.
When I met Marcel Darius this summer, you think of someone who's a big kid.
Let's go, let's go. Yes, sir.
But to see a guy like Marcel Darius be the big kid is kind of astounding, given that he not only had to deal with poverty, but he was mocked in school, and so many people close to him kept dying. For a guy who's been through so much tragedy, he doesn't look wounded. He looks like it made him stronger somehow. Go big or go home.
Hey, that's the plan.
I'll try to follow you. Growing up, it was a struggle, right?
A real struggle. My mom had 7 kids, 6 boys and 1 girl. People laughed at us and picked on us and called us names. Talked about we couldn't afford clothes and shoes. And I got my first pair of cleats when I got to college.
Wow. You lost your father when you were pretty young?
I lost my dad when I was 8.
Wow.
Grandmom, grandfather a little while after, then mom right before him.
And your brother?
2nd year in the NFL, brother killed in a triple homicide.
You gotta be thinking this can't be happening.
Yeah, it's like, why, like, Lord, why you keep taking everybody away from me that really matters to me? So I'm just fighting through it and steady playing ball and got the world on my back.
Now that Mr. Big Stuff has truly hit the big time,
how y'all doing?
Recently landing a 6-year contract extension that could earn him more than $100 million, he's giving back to his community, something he never dreamed of during his childhood.
It's just kind of surreal. It's just kind of like really talking about it now. It's just almost like, damn, I can't even believe that all this was really going on. Like that was really life. When you don't have the money and you just really trying to do whatever you can to get to the next day, just kind of keep your head down and just continue to fight for what you want. And I would have never thought that it'd be true, but actually it's true. I want y'all to really pay attention to what we're doing, okay? Get it, get it, get it, get it. Get it. Oh, there we go. Fullback.
Coming to a school like this, how does it make you feel?
It's great. Just really coming back and just giving the kids a little bit of what I always wanted growing up. I always wanted an athlete or a superstar, somebody famous to come to my school and just give us a little, give us a little pep for the morning so we can be happy throughout the rest of the day. Play 60 on 3. 1, 2, 3. Play 60! Let's go.
Makes him a very easy guy to root for when you realize all the things that he's overcome.
Yeah, it really does.
There's no doubt about it. Marcel Darius, an amazing story. If they are going to win this game, one of the key components for the Bills, especially that defensive line, is going to be trying to stop Blake Bortles, who is going into his 20th career start. And guys, you can see the improvement from his rookie year to his sophomore season here. Just look at the numbers. Blake Bortles passing for 271 yards a game. He attempts about 40 passes per game. That's third most in the NFL. Heath, let's start with you. Is this guy the franchise quarterback that they thought he would be when they drafted him?
I mean, I don't want to give you a lame answer. I think he's trending in that direction. I think he's better than most people thought that he was. I think Gus Bradley and his staff saw something in Blake that a lot of people didn't see. We've seen somewhat of a mentality that he'll take risk, which I kind of like. I think he's learning how to balance those. You always look for growth. The GMs around the league say that 20-game starting mark is that mark for quarterbacks where you can really see what do they have and what don't they have. I think you see consistent growth. You don't see the same mistakes over and over again, and I think you'd say he's ultimately trending in the right direction.
Yeah, threw a lot of interceptions last year, 13 touchdown passes, just 7 picks this year. Let's talk about the running back, T.J. Yeldon. Missed last week. He's going to be back out there. What do you see when you watch him?
Yeah, he missed with that groin injury. But you know what? I see a guy that people talk about his upright running style. But I also see a guy that you rarely see him take that direct hit. He's a guy that's pretty good. You can see right here the nice moves that he makes. He's a good finisher of the runs. So I like what I see from T.J. Yeldon. The one thing people talked about is that he fumbles the ball a lot. He has 0 fumbles on 81 attempts this year. So he's not putting the ball on the ground a whole lot, which is good.
Just 3.6 yards per carry for T.J. Yeldon. Yeah. Perhaps a big game for him. The Bills coming out of the tunnel as we speak at Wembley Stadium, trying to get to 4-3 on the season, getting ready to take down the Jags. That's what they're hoping for. We'll be right back after this.
NFL on Yahoo pregame is brought to you by new DQ Bakes Oven Hot Snack Melts at participating locations.
Welcome to this live streaming presentation of the National Football League on Yahoo.
We are making history on Yahoo today, streaming live. The Jags coming out of the tunnel at Wembley Stadium. The Bills already on the field. We are just moments away from kickoff, so that means it's time for our predictions. But before you hear from TD and Heath, let's check out with a native Englishman, the host of the Late Late Show on CBS, James Corden.
Thanks, Dan. Well, I'm 7 weeks into my first NFL.
He's got it. That's a Jet touchdown.
This week, I'm going to go with the Bills over the Jaguars. Despite my exotic pronunciation of the word Jaguars. London loves it when the NFL comes to town, and I really wish I could be there for the game. However, my parents are actually going to be there. So if you see a sweet couple, bit overdressed, with confused looks on their faces because they don't have a clue what's going on, you won't be able to spot them because I just described half of the stadium. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the rest of the NFL on Yahoo pregame show.
All right, thanks, James. TD, let's start with you. Bills or Jaguars?
I'm going Buffalo Bills. Defense too good right now. Give me the Bills.
I'm going to stick with the Bills, too, but for a different reason. A 1 week healthier Shady McCoy. Last week, 17 touches, 5+ yards a carry. I think he'll get more touches today. Too tough to stop.
Very curious to see if Rex lets these guys get after the quarterback. Blake Bortles could be in trouble. Let's send it over to Wembley Stadium. It's Kevin Harlan and Rich Gannon on the call.
The historic sights of London welcoming NFL fans from around Europe and the United States with league festivities throughout this great city. Now these fans are descending on Wembley Stadium for the NFL International Series as the Buffalo Bills take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And a pleasant good afternoon, everyone, along with former NFL MVP Rich Gannon, Kevin Harlan. We welcome you to England and a first for the NFL, partnering with Yahoo to have live global streaming of an NFL game for the first time. A lot going on, a lot of moving parts. That serves as our backdrop for what we're here for, the football game. So set it up, Rich, the Jaguars and the Bills.
Kevin, let's start with Buffalo. They've lost 2 of their last 3 games, and a few of their star players have openly complained about the scheme. Defensively, as a group, they've underperformed. Offensively, they haven't had a lot of continuity and consistency because of all the injuries. And for Jacksonville, they find themselves in an all-too-familiar position at 1-5. They are desperate for a win.
Well, the Buffalo Bills are certainly debilitated. Gone their starting quarterback, the top 2 receivers, the right side of their offensive line. A terrific young player in running back Carlos Williams, and one of their best defensive players in Kyle Williams. Rich, a lot to absorb there for Buffalo.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy for E.J. Manuel, who had an up-and-down performance last week, but he should be a week better. The only problem is they're so beat up around him, and that's why he's really going to have to rely on LaShawn McCoy and Charles Clay. And I think really McCoy's the key because he can do so much for a young quarterback, and not just on the ground, but through the air as well. And I think Charles Clay is having a terrific season. He already has 31 catches, second among tight ends. He certainly gives them speed and versatility at the tight end position.
All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars have lost 4 consecutive games, but if there is hope, it rests with their quarterback, Blake Bortles.
Yeah, Kevin, he's put up some big numbers the last few weeks. He's a talented young player who's not afraid to take chances and push the ball down the field. He's already thrown 13 touchdowns. And he'll get some help today as T.J. Yeldon returns to the lineup after being out last week with a groin injury. They need better production from their running game.
Let's go to our PA announcer, Alan Roach.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and kindly remove your hats as we welcome the Ohio State University Marching Band and opera soprano Laura Wright for the U.S. National Anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glow, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please remain standing and join us for the national anthem of the United Kingdom. God Save the Queen.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen.
the third member of our crew in London today, Jamie Erdahl.
Kevin, two very different approaches in terms of travel for these teams coming overseas. I'll start with the visiting Buffalo Bills. Head coach Rex Ryan put his team on a plane Sunday after their game. They arrived Monday morning, gave the players Monday and Tuesday off, went to work on Wednesday. The players told us they felt like their sleep had regulated by midweek. Now, as far as the Jacksonville Jaguars, complete opposite end of the spectrum. Although they've done this a time or two before, head coach Gus Bradley put the Jags on a flight Thursday evening. They arrived in London just over 48 hours ago. However, as I mentioned, they've done it a bunch of different ways. He felt confident about their sleep and energy coming into this one.
Jamie, thank you very much. I don't know, Rich, if there is one way or another that is good or bad, but these teams continue to work on the travel overseas and perfecting it each and every time. This is the 13th game. As you take a look at our weather, 54 degrees. We had rain yesterday in London, not today. It's perfect football weather. Today's game is being broadcast in Spanish. We're available using the SAP button on your television. With a look at Rex Ryan, and he has had some criticism from an unlikely source, Rich, this week, his players.
Yeah, I think he was surprised a little bit, Kevin. I think the team is frustrated. I think in particular the defense, and I can tell you this, Rex Ryan told us on Friday they're going to be aggressive. They're going to get back to playing their style of football, and I think it's attacking and getting after Blake Bortles early and often.
With a look at E.J. Manuel, the third-year quarterback out of Florida State. As a starter, 6-9. We've had the flip of the coin. The Jaguars won. They have deferred, so the Buffalo Bills will receive. And deep back is Boom Herron out of Ohio State. Ironically enough, the Ohio State marching band performed before the game. They will perform at halftime. And to kick it off for Jacksonville, Jason Myers. The Bills, the Jaguars from London, and away we go. Boom Herron into a pile and brought down by Demetrius McCray. It is a 27-yard return. This takes us to E.J. Manuel, second consecutive start.
Kevin, he has to come out and cut it loose. I thought last week he was cautious. I don't think he wants to make a mistake. Remember now, this is a quarterback that was a first-round pick 3 years ago. He's got benched. He had a foot out the door this summer when they brought in Matt Castle and Tyrod Taylor. I think he has to be aggressive and play with confidence early.
With a pistol formation here in a 1st and 10. Outside they go. Robert Woods. Falling on him outside was Roy Miller. It is a loss of 2 on the play. We've talked about that offensive line. So Urbit goes to the guard. Quanjo goes to the right tackle position. A lot of moving parts there. Henderson is out with a concussion. LaShawn McCoy, who says yesterday to us he's about 80% hamstring issues earlier on. Missed a couple games. In there right now. Coming off his best game of the season. 90 yards against Cincinnati. McCoy. And blockers ahead. With the tackle made by Chris Clemens, who gets the start on the defensive line. It is a 14-yard catch and run. He's up to the 36-yard line. And a first down. We just mentioned Clemens at one side. Tyson Alualu will be in the middle. And he gets the starting role today in place of Derek Marks, who started last week after coming back. Paul Postlesny leads his team in tackles. He's terrific. And Dwayne Gratz will get the start in the secondary for this team, taking the place of Devon House with his performance last week. He was demoted to nickel. It's 1st and 10, the elusive McCoy. Odds on that time by Clemens. And no gain on the play. They stay at the 36.
Well, Kevin, when you think about all the injuries the Bills have, they're without Sammy Watkins and Percy Harvin. You mentioned the right side of the offensive line. They lose a lot of their speed on offense. And there's 2 guys in particular that really have to step up and have huge days. I think it's Charles Clay, the tight end, and also LaShawn McCoy, who we just saw. I mean, they have to rely on these guys throughout the course of this game, and in particular in the passing game. I think that's where McCoy can really help E.J. Manuel.
We saw a picture. Tyrod Taylor had that MCL sprint, reach 5. This is McCoy, got a block up front from Urbit at the guard, and he worries his way for about 4. He's up to the 40-yard line.
Well, McCoy is so shifty. We talked about it a little bit in the open. He's so good with the ball in his hands. He always seems to make the first defender miss. Great vision and instincts. And in talking to some of the Jacksonville defensive players, they said they have to be aggressive with McCoy and force him back up inside where all the bigger bodies are. But you can't let him get outside, get on the edge of your defense.
He's got 3 touches already in this game.
He is going to be busy, and he's feeling better, Kevin, as you mentioned, from that hamstring injury that kept him out a couple weeks ago.
Hurry!
It's 3rd down and 6. This is McCoy. Trying to throw a block. Reisney brings him down. Tumbles for the first down. Got by the 46 with a gain of 5 on the play. Maybe 6. Let's see the spot. They give him the first down.
Well, they see the pressure the one way. All they're going to do is just try and get McCoy out on the edge. Remember, we talked about the right side of this offensive line with Quanjo and Herman. They've got to help these guys out early. And how do you do that? By running the ball right at them. Let them go north and south. Let them get up on the second level and get some hats on those linebackers.
Hey, Mike 51! Ready? Hut!
Pass Hogan with coverage on the play provided by Aaron Colvin in the Jaguars secondary.
You've got to help out the quarterback. Hasn't played a lot this year, and it's imperative that Hogan and Woods, I think, have big days. Kevin, we talked to Greg Roman on Friday, and he said both Hogan and Woods have been with them since day one, both extremely diligent, bright guys, and they're going to do the right thing. They have total faith in both of these players. They're not going to change the plan much in terms of the passing game. This won't be able to get down the field as easily.
Boone Herring has come in for this 27th ranked offense. 2nd down and 10. Inside looking for Gregg. The coverage by Colvin. It is incomplete on the chalk. 3rd and 10.
Kevin, when you really study E.J. Manuel, at times he's late with his eyes. And I think at times he doesn't play fast from under center. And I think that you watch him a little bit last week. He'll make some great throws, and he'll come back and miss some throws. Part of it is his mechanics, which we talked to him about on Friday. I think he's trying to become more compact. But when you're late with your eyes, we always say if you're late, you're late. Sometimes he wants to make sure he sees it. And if you're late, you're going to be late with throws, especially the out-breaking routes outside the numbers.
3rd down and 10. McCoy was back in. Here's the throws. You saw the result. The pressure was there. Clemens coming up the middle in his grill. And it will be 4th down.
Well, you're going to see a little bit more pressure up inside. That's a terrific hit on the quarterback by Chris Clemens. And that's, you always talk about, you want to make sure that you get some hits on the quarterback early.
Colton Schmidt, he'll be punting. You can see his numbers there at the top. And beat back Brian Walters, and they blow that play dead. Flag.
False start. Offense number 26. 5-yard penalty. 4th down.
So Manuel ends that first series with 3 straight incompletions and pressure up the middle. That pressure, by the way, something that the Jacksonville defense hasn't been generating all that much of.
No, they struggle, Kevin. They don't have that dominant pass rusher, and that's a problem. The penalties are a problem as well for the Buffalo Bills. They have more penalties than any team in football through the first 6 games.
And Schmidt sends it away. Alders down the fly at the 23 with a fair catch. That's where Jacksonville will start things. A 36-yard punt. Here comes second-year quarterback Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles is number 5 in touchdown passes in the NFL, number 7, Rich, in passing yards.
Yeah, you can already see the improvement with this young offense from a season ago. The yards a game are up significantly, as well as the numbers with their young quarterback.
T.J. Yeldon is back. He's missed the last game. With the first down and 10 from the 24. And he's grabbed inside by Corbin Bryant. He replaces Kyle Williams. It is a gain of 3, and he's up to the 27-yard line on that offensive line. Their best lineman, Brandon Linder, is out with a shoulder injury. So rookie A.J. Cann will make the start again at that right guard. And we just mentioned Yeldon. He is back. Leading rusher on this team, and the 4th leading rusher among rookies in the NFL. Second down and 7.
Yeah, 52's right. 3 and
Duke Williams with a terrific play on a pass intended for the tight end. Incomplete. Corbin Bryant, as we said, takes the place of Kyle Williams. Kyle's got the knee, but they miss him up front. High-priced defensive line. Preston Brown continues to impress. And Corey Graham is the #1 tackler among NFL defensive backs. Here is a 3rd and 7. They need the 34. He gets the pass out. Flag is thrown. Hearns makes the grab right in front of Gilmore.
Holding offense number 76. 10-yard penalty, 3rd down.
It's Luke Jokel, the left tackle.
You get a good look at Luke Jokel right there in the left tackle position, and he's in good position. He just gets bull rush, and you can see him grab Jerry Hughes. This is a defensive line that led the National Football League a season ago in sacks.
So this offense of Jacksonville comes in number 15 in the NFL. 53. Take on the number 18 defense in the league of Buffalo. It's 3rd and 17.
These are the situations you want to stay ahead of against the Rex Ryan coach defense.
Williams chasing. Boyles wobbling and incomplete as he was looking for Hearns at about the 42 with the coverage by Gilmore. And so that Buffalo defense forces Jacksonville to punt the first time.
You know, Rex is the guy that's going to heat up the young quarterback. You just know it, and he's going to give you some unusual, unorthodox looks that you haven't seen or prepared for. And I think the key for Blake Bortles, Kevin, throwing it away once in a while is not a bad thing against this defense in punting. What you don't want to do is make that ugly mistake, that late throw down the middle that results in a pick.
Ryan Andrews for Jacksonville. Darius was a bad punt. Darius Morris back there, landing at the 46, hang down to 3-4. That won't get it done. And so a 40-yard punt, second possession coming up for the Buffalo Bills. LaShawn McCoy last week with his best effort at 90 yards on the ground.
Yeah, first game back with the hamstring injury and didn't disappoint. 17 carries, Kevin, 90 yards and a touchdown. And many of their big runs, when you really look at the next-gen stats, came off the right side. In fact, 14 of their 17 runs were to the right. And that's because they want to pull Richie Incognito, their left guard. And many of McCoy's runs get bounced to the edge where he can use his speed. Trust me, Jacksonville is aware of these numbers. They've talked all week about forcing McCoy back up inside. They have to set the edge against McCoy.
There's a 1st and 10. Once again, here is LaShawn McCoy, who got in a trade with Philadelphia. He is tackled in the secondary by Josh Evans on a gain of 6. By the way, the way we handle the next gen, the 2 tracking devices on every player, recording every movement by those players, 1 on each of these shoulder pads.
It's incredible technology, and I think it allows us to be able to really track what's going on with the players, but also, Ken, I think at some point, even for the teams, to be able to go back and look at some of this information, which I think is fascinating over the course of a season.
I will put one on you.
Self-scout. It's important to self-scout. I want to know where LaShawn McCoy is going. Believe me, Jacksonville is well aware of number 25, and he is getting closer. You know, we talked to him on Friday. He had that hamstring injury. It's really bothered him going back to training camp. And he said that, he had some setbacks in practice where, he would open it up a little bit, and then, he'd feel it tug a little bit. So they've been monitoring his reps the last month. But look at the difference with and without him in the lineup. And I think that, you look at the yards a game, look at his impact in the passing game. But most importantly, how about points a game with him? 30 points a game without him. A meager 12 points.
That's significant. The difference is a timeout was taken by the Buffalo Bills. Well, McCoy is a 3-time Pro Bowler, a rushing champion with the Philadelphia Eagles back in 2013. You're now just looking to get some health and get beyond, as he told us the other day, beyond the 80% health he's got right now.
I think he's one of the most difficult tackles in the open field. And he has that suddenness to him.
And the quarterback, Manning, will take it. Hogan with the block, and that is a 1st down run. Cyprian was in the area, a 10-yard burst, and that is one thing that Manuel and Tyrod Taylor, who he's replacing, can do, and that is run the ball.
Well, they can, and it's good to see this from E.J. Manuel, Kevin. We saw a little bit of it his rookie year, and then he got hurt a couple times, and I think he was a little bit tentative to pull it down and run. But he's in a tough spot. He knows that in 2 weeks when they finish up their bye, Tyrod Taylor is going to be healthy. I visited with him before the game.
E.J. Manuel, he's got to cut it loose. Have some fun.
At the 12, makes the grab. Chris Gregg is out of Arkansas, picks up 29 yards to the 11-yard line of the Jacksonville D.
This is a really nice route. You love it because you're going to have a single high safety, but check out this route. He's going to go out and then he's going to work up the field. But what he does, he gets his width and depth at the same time, keeping himself away from the safety in the middle of the field. And E.J. Manuel does a nice job holding the safety with his eyes. Terrific throw and catch.
Wildcat, and it hit the crossing in-motion receiver. That was Woods. They had taken the quarterback Manuel and put him wide to the bottom of the screen. And then watch as Woods crosses.
What happens is you have a player in a position on LaShawn McCoy. He's responsible for the cadence, Kevin. He doesn't do a lot of this, right? So he doesn't do a good enough job making sure that he gets, Woods across the formation first. I mean, that's just a terrible mistake in this part of the field.
And maybe trying to be a little too fancy here when things are working.
They're trying to create ways to have some explosive plays. Remember now, they're without some of their best receivers in the passing game.
The tight ends here second down and 12 after the loss of 2. He's out of bounds. He is out of bounds, caught it, and then he was well out of bounds, and he was open on the play.
Well, this is a mistake by the tight end, Chris Gregg. You always have to know where you're at on the field. I mean, this is just a mental error on the part of the tight end. He's just going to go out to the flat. E.J. Manuel's a little bit late getting to him, but look where he's at. I mean, you don't see that very often, do you?
Well, no, but I will say this. With the writing on the side of the field, it's got the color of the field itself, the green. I wonder if that was confusing, but nonetheless, it's 4th down and 12. Manuel. And he's got grounded down. This time he's out of the end zone and well beyond the barometer, and they've got Devon House back there as the nickel watching the Buffalo tight end. So it's 4th down. They're going to bring out the field goal unit.
Just takes too long to develop. I mean, it's the extra hitch, and we'll be talking about this a lot today with E.J. Manuel. He wants to stare it down a little bit. He wants to make sure he's seeing what he sees, and he takes an extra hitch or two, and that makes him late with the throw.
Dan Carpenter is going to try a 31-yard field goal. And there is a negligible breeze inside Wembley Stadium today. Hold coming from Colton Schmidt. And the Buffalo Bills are on top first. And the big play was a 29-yard pass to a wide-open tight end, Chris Gregg, from quarterback E.J. Manuel. And Carpenter good from 31. The NFL on Yahoo is brought to you by Snickers. Snickers satisfies. Beautiful Big Ben in Parliament. We went by there yesterday, and the sun is out today. Raining yesterday, but pleasant. But today it is spectacular. In London, Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon, Jamie Erdahl, our producer Ken Mack, and our director Mark Grant. 11th consecutive game, Jacksonville has allowed first quarter points. Longest active streak in the league. We just saw a 31-yard field goal by Carpenter. We have Gay kicking off for the Buffalo Bills, and they'll leave it in the end zone with Nick Marshall.
Well, Blake Bortles is an exciting young player, and I don't think there's a throw that he feels he can't make. I think he's got better mobility than we give him credit for. This is a terrific throw on the move last week against the Houston Texans, but he has to eliminate some of the poor decisions, especially in this part of the field. This is right before the half. You can't fight zoning linebackers. I think you look at him last week, Kevin, 3 touchdowns, but he also threw 3 interceptions. He's got to clean up that part of his game.
Yeldon on 1st and 10. Makes it to the secondary, rams his way into Ronald Darby and takes it out to the 28 with a gain of 8 on 1st down.
Well, it's good to get Yeldon back. Very quick to the hole. He's got good vision for those cutback lanes, and I think speed to break off the long runs.
Yeldon is the 4th all-time leading rusher at Alabama. Just 21 years of age. Carries the ball a lot. They're going to put a lot on his shoulders, Rich.
He needs to be busy. The running game hasn't been good enough.
With a 2nd down and 2, and trying to pick and poke his way inside. Looked like Jerry Hughes, among others, got their hands on him, and a gain of about a yard.
That's why they went out and drafted him, Kevin, in the second round. I mean, right now they're currently 24th in rushing offense, or average just 92 yards a game. And Buffalo, it's one of their strengths. They're fourth in run defense and make it very difficult on you. Gus Bradley's talked all week about having some success on the early down and staying out of those third and longs against Rex Ryan, where he can dial up all those blitzes.
Yeldon missed most of preseason with a finger injury. Didn't play, as we mentioned before, against Houston last week with the groin. 3rd down and 1. Gerhardt in.
Hey, alert, Sunday. Alert.
And a timeout taken by Jacksonville.
Charge timeout, Jacksonville.
So each offense has taken a timeout to begin things, and 6:08 to play here in the first. We had a long talk with Gus Bradley, and I know you've thought long and hard about what he's been able or not been able to accomplish, especially as he has begun each season in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think the slow starts, Kevin, are disturbing. I mean, their combined record under Gus Bradley for the first 6 games the last 3 seasons is 1-17. 0-6 his first year, 0-6 his second year, and 1-5 this year. It's something that they need to fix. I mean, it's and I think the other thing that's, they need to see significant improvement for year 3, I think, in order for him to stick around. I mean, he's a combined 8-30 overall, and he's passionate. He's a head coach that believes strongly in what they're doing. I think he feels that they're making progress. It just isn't showing up right now on the scoreboard.
Well, the owner, Shad Khan, has come out with his public endorsement. Says it's a patient process, uncomfortable but patient. They're down in 1. Gerhardt. Oh, and he bulldozes his way for the first down. And he picks up 4. Hit in the secondary. Brought down 2 by Manny Lawson, the linebacker. Put him at the 33.
I like how they put Tyson Alualu in the fullback position. I mean, he's just going to lead up in front. And you got the bigger back and Toby Gerhardt that can push some piles. A good-looking run there on 3rd down.
Alualu just kind of pushed the running back and pushed him.
The more you can do, go out there and stop the run, and we'll put you in there on offense and you go block somebody.
He's a helping hand. 1st and 10.
Green is up.
Bortles has got his receiver. Flag thrown. Robinson with an acrobatic catch. And it was working on Gilmore right in front of the Buffalo bench on a gain of 20, and the flag should go against the Bills.
Pass interference. Defense number 24. Penalties decline. 1st down.
They like throwing these jump balls to Allen Robinson.
Yeah, he's their deep threat. He's averaging almost 18 yards a catch, and he's going up against a really good corner in Stephon Gilmore. He's going to have his hands full. These are 2 good young receivers in Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns, and the quarterback isn't afraid to give him a chance down the field.
Robinson among the leaders in yards per reception this year. Picked up 20. Here comes Yeldon. No place to run, no place to hide. And spun around. Preston Brown had a hand on him along with Williams inside with a loss of a yard.
Yeah, it's good to see Mario Williams. We had a great visit with him, Kevin, on Friday. And then did speak with the coaching staff after last week's comments and the loss of Cincinnati. And, I just think that, they were so good last year. And this year they haven't had the numbers. The sacks are down, the pressures, the explosive plays, the turnovers. And I just think that, they've lost 2 of their last 3. And this is a group that's not played up to their potential.
2nd and 11, more pressure on Bortles. Williams is getting on him. Boy, they are sending pressure from every point you can imagine in front. Incomplete pass. Williams already coming through hard.
And I'm not surprised to see Jacksonville move the pocket some. Get Blake Bortles out on the edge. But look at this. They triple team him. He's not going to hold it very long.
You can see who's on the field with the next-gen stats. 3rd down and 11. They need the 37. And he's going right down the seam. What a great juggling catch by Julius Thomas. Takes it down to the 21. An acrobatic 27-yard reception. And a 1st down by the tight end who they got from Denver. Oh, but a flag has been thrown.
Well, it's amazing. He never even sees it, Kevin. We always say it's important for the tight end to see the ball come out of the quarterback's hands. That's a great reaction by Julius Thomas.
Holding was the call on Jacksonville. That's the 2nd holding penalty they've had right now. So it pushes them back to the 42.
They've really got to eliminate the mistakes, Kevin. The missed assignments, the mental errors, the penalties, the turnovers. They're not good enough right now to be able to overcome all the mistakes, especially early in games.
3rd and 21.
Always alert for screen or draw in this situation. Obviously no back in the backfield. Look for something quick.
Well, you called it, Rich. There they go, and they want a quick slant. Yeldon can't hold on. And there's a flag. Coverage by Nigel Branham. Inside, and the flag at the 45. And another one at the 50. And they're both against the Jaguars.
There are 2 fouls on the offense. Pass interference, number 89, that penalty's declined. Ineligible man downfield on the offense, number 60, that penalty's declined. 4th down.
That's called a double whammy when you have 2 on one play.
That's called,
right?
That's called not good.
What the coaches say when you come to the sidelines. Go stick your head in the bushes. We'll talk to you later. Clean up your act.
Go get some fish and chips.
You disgust me.
Anger will punt for a 2nd time, and this one has Loft. And Denarius Moore, who played his college ball at Tennessee, is under it with a fair catch about the 20. Good hang time and a 38-yarder. They've had a field goal by the Buffalo Bills. Another possession coming out for their quarterback. The NFL on Yahoo is brought to you in part by Cadillac. Thames. Gorgeous view on this Sunday early afternoon in London, high above London from the London Eye. That big Ferris wheel. You went over there yesterday.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And how'd you like it?
Loved it. It's a great city. It's a clean city, and everybody's been so hospitable to us. And they love American football.
They do. They also love rugby. The Rugby World Cup is going on here, semifinals. Yesterday it was South Africa, New Zealand. Today, Argentina and Australia. 1st and 10. And with a skip and a quick tackle made by Dan Scuda, it is LaShawn McCoy for 5 to the 25, and Jamie's downstairs.
Kevin, something to keep an eye on for you guys in the Jaguars secondary. Josh Evans, who was a starting free safety, getting a lot of work done on his neck and shoulder area. They initially had listed him as questionable to return with a stinger, but he is back on the field.
Good for him and good for Jacksonville. 6th round pick out of Florida 3 years ago. Here's a 2nd down and 5 for Manning.
You. Ready? Cut.
Play action, incognito, trying to ward off an oncoming rusher, Clemens, and then they come from every direction. Alu coming through and makes the sack, brings them down. Loss of 9, back to the 16.
Well, you go back and look at the stretch play. I mean, it's play action. They're trying to get the ball down the field to the tight end. Not a lot of places to go. I'm going to watch Clay, and here's a guy that they do a really nice job moving him around and running these crossing routes. You see Telvin Smith, he's right there. Coverage sack for Jacksonville.
5 in the secondary, 3rd and 14. They need the 30. He's got time. Oh, knocked away. Some terrific defensive play here by Senderick Marks. He made his season debut last week, had an ACL, remember, late last year. 3 and out, Buffalo is going to punt.
Yeah, they really need Senderick Marks, Kevin, to come back and to play well. You know, it all starts with their defensive line. It's where they spent the money. Senderick Marks, Chris Clemens, Alu, Jared Odrick.
The punter is Colton Schmidt, and deep back is Nick Marshall. Nick Marshall, a year ago at this time, was playing quarterback at Auburn. And he slips, and the ball's out of bounds with a terrific hang time. They were down there, 56-yarder by Schmidt. Blake Bortles will get another shot at it. They've had it twice. They've punted both times. 2:13 first quarter from London.
Yeah, you look at the first 2 possessions for Jacksonville, not what they wanted. Slow starts on offense have been a killer. They've scored just 16 first quarter points through their first 6 games, and they're not very good
playing from behind. They're not built that way yet. That's why it's so important. This is a critical drive. They'd be nice once in a while to play with a lead. They haven't done a whole lot of that this season.
And Pauly is on the defensive line for Buffalo. It is a first down and 10. To Yeldon. Now they go downfield and they've got the receiver, Allen Hurns. He's got the first down. He's working on Darby. Picks up 23. Put him right near midfield. The 49 of Jacksonville. 22-yard gain.
Well, they love these crossing routes.
And they love these second-year receivers.
Yeah, you're just going to see it comes all the way across the formation. And when they get behind these linebackers in the play action, look at the squeeze it gets on the linebackers. And Bortles makes a really nice throw across the field to Allen Hurns.
Hurns playing with a thigh issue today. More time for Bortles and a wide-open receiver. This time it's the other Allen Robinson. And he's got a lower leg bruise, but he works downfield, works on Graham, picks up 23, put him at the 28.
Well, they really like these young receivers. They've got speed, they've got size, they've got playmaking ability, and they're very good after the catch.
I think you take these two young receivers, youngest teammates to register 400-plus receiving yards through the first 5 games as a tandem on one team since 1960. First and 10, Yeldon. Show patience. And a little bounce as he is finally hit by Darby and brought down after a gain of 5. They'll put him down to the 23.
Well, we talked about getting better production in the running game. That should help getting T.J. Yeldon back. You know, throwing it 65% of the time, and I know Greg Olsen doesn't want to do that with a young quarterback, but it's tough. You know, both these teams, Kevin, have dealt with injuries on offense. It's tough when you don't have your starting running back.
Second down 5. Yeldon, who got a block from Nick Jacobs, who's tied in, takes it into the grasp of Corey Graham in the secondary to the 11 of the Buffalo Bills. A burst of 12 and a first down.
Well, they like this wham play. The tight end's going to come all the way back across, and he's going to get the kick-out block for T.J. Yeldon. So he's going to kick out the backside linebacker. Look at that hole up inside. They refer to that as a wham block.
This quarter has come to a close, but the Jaguars are showing life on offense at the end of one. They're down by 3 on Yahoo. You can see they've highlighted the plays of 20 yards or more. Bortles terrific in that category. Only Dalton and Palmer and Rivers have more of those kind of completions than him this year.
That's pretty good company,
yes,
Kevin.
It is.
You know, he really throws the deep ball well, and he has a couple young receivers in Robinson and Hurns that will go get it.
So after their defense forced a Buffalo 3 and out, completions of 22 to Hurns, 23 to Robinson, a 12-yard run by Yeldon. First and 10, starting the second quarter. Quarterback will take it himself. He was clubbed as he worked past the 10-yard line by Duke Williams out of Nevada with a gain of a yard to the 10.
He can and he will run with the football. I think he's able to make some plays with his feet. You don't think of that because he's such a big quarterback. I think he's got some better mobility than you think at the quarterback position.
It would surprise some people. There's Shad Khan there right in the middle of your screen. He was honored before the game today. He is as important a member of this expansion into the UK, into London, as any NFL owner is. He has volunteered his team. He is leading the charge. Second down and 9. There's Jacobs in front. One of his tight ends who offered a block, and then he throws it away wisely. Incomplete. Third and 9.
Well, again, they're going to move the quarterback, and they're trying to get the tight ends to the corner of the end zone. Great coverage here by the Bills. They're not going for it, and Bortles does the next best thing. He just throws it away and moves on. Kevin, you mentioned Shad Khan. He's looking for a sweep this weekend. You know, his other football team won yesterday in dramatic fashion. Fulham beat Reading 4-2. They were down 2-0 at the half. 4 unanswered goals in the second half. You know, I'm a big soccer fan.
Did you just say, Neil? You got a daughter. You got a daughter who plays some soccer. The great schools out east. Bucknell, third down, 9. Quick throw down to the 1. Did he get across? They call it a touchdown. They call it a touchdown and a laser throw. Bortles to Robinson. The lunge, the reach, and a 10-yard strike. And Jacksonville has taken the lead.
They're just going to run the little quick slant. This is a really nice throw by Blake Bortles. No one in the middle of the field. They're going to pressure him, and he gets it up and down quick. And that's the beauty, Kevin, of having these bigger receivers that can work in the middle of the field. You look at the size of Allen Robinson. He's 6'3". He's 220 pounds. That's tough on a corner like Stephon Gilmore.
Working on Gilmore. Here's the extra point. Myers puts it through. 7-3 Jacksonville. A 73-yard drive. Long completions. 22 to Hearns. Through the air, 23 to Robinson. The Yeldon run of 12. Then the lunging touchdown by wide receiver Allen Robinson, who is a very physical receiver, as Rich was just talking about, with 6'3", height, big catching radius. Oh, Rich, for a guy that long.
Kevin, I love bigger receivers as a quarterback, especially on those inside breaking routes where they can use their body to shield off the corners.
Robinson with his 6th touchdown reception of the season. That's top 3 in the NFL.
The thing you do know about Gus Bradley's team, Kevin, is they're not going to go down easily. This is a team that's been in a lot of close games. They've had 4 one-possession games this year that they've been unable to win. They have to learn to finish in games.
The first half, they've been terrific. You're right, Rich, but boy, it's that second half of games which have really done them in.
Well, how about last week? I mean, they entered the fourth quarter at home with a 14-10 lead over Houston, only to have a disastrous 4-minute stretch. They give up 2 quick touchdowns on defense. Bortles threw a pick 6, and they wind up losing 31-20.
Well, late in the game, they led Indy by 3. They led Tampa Bay by 4. And as you just said, they led Houston by 4. And this is up front with Booby Dixon taking it up on the 5 and up the sideline to about the 22-yard line, where he's met by a host of defensive players, including Jordan Tripp. It is an 18-yard return.
What a great name, Booby Dixon. He could be a rugby player.
He would. He'd fit right in.
Booby Dixon.
With the World Cup of Rugby here. Coming up on the Toyota halftime, Dan Hellie, Terrell Davis, Heath Evans, our first half analysis, and Rich Eisen, Michael Irvin, Marshall Falk, and Steve Mariucci will preview the other NFL games of Week 7. All coming up next after the 18-yard kickoff return. 1st and 10.
Ready?
McCoy, quick play, rocketing through Roy Miller III. Been very reliable, leads the defensive line in tackles for the Jaguars.
Look at the penetration. Roy Miller's right over the nose. I mean, he just shoots that A-gap between the center and the guard. He goes right around the center, Eric Wood. And LaShawn McCoy has nowhere to go.
Ready?
2nd and 13, they blow that dead. We got an offensive penalty here.
False start. Offense number 71. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
It's time for someone to do some push-ups. I mean, it's amazing.
Is that what they'd make you do, huh?
Well, that's what Rex said. That was his deal. He wanted to do some up-downs. Look at these penalties, Kevin. It's amazing. They've played the Bills through their first 6 games. They already have 62. It's for over 580 yards. And what's interesting is you look at their wins. They're averaging a little over 7. And the losses, 15.5.
Hey, no,
After their 2nd false start penalty, 2nd and 18 low, but scooped in right there. Evans jumping on top of the receiver, Robert Woods. He now has 37 consecutive games with the reception. He picks up 9.
You know, not a lot of yards after catch with some of these receivers the last week and a half, Kevin, because the accuracy for E.J. Manuel is a little bit of a problem. It's either low or high, and it's really difficult for these receivers to get into the transition of the run.
Bills!
6 defensive backs for Jacksonville, 3rd down and 9.
Hey, let's go, Ron!
Here they come, the pressure's on, the ball is 3, and it's picked up on the play by Brown, and you can see him tumbling in, and it was grabbed eventually by Clemens, who takes it in for the Jacksonville touchdown. first defensive touchdown of the season for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, you got to know in this situation that the pressure is coming. And E.J. Manuel is going to get hit right in the face. You see Colvin coming off the edge. He's going to get the shot on the quarterback. He's not even expecting it. The ball comes out. And Sergio Brown is right there. He tries to get it. Ball's bouncing around. Chris Clemens gets the touchdown, but E.J. Manuel's got to do a better job seeing the blitz in this situation.
Now the extra point. As the Bills were rocked here early, 14-3. Jacksonville with 12:21 to go. They've scored. The Jaguars have 2 touchdowns in a minute 44. They've done it on offense. Then the defense comes to play. Their first defensive touchdown of the season. 91. There he is, 33-year-old Chris Clemens, who has been a player that has played in Seattle. He has been racking up some sacks with Jacksonville. He did not participate in the offseason workouts, which was a little bit disconcerting to the staff. But boy, has he shown up in a big way here in London today with the fumble recovery, his second career touchdown in his 153rd career game. 6-yard return.
Well, if you're E.J. Manuel, Kevin, you have to quickly turn the page and move on from the mistake. You can't do anything about it now. And the great ones are able to do that regardless of the situation. If it's a touchdown pass, if it's an interception, if it's a sack fumble, to quickly move on. This is an important drive for E.J. Manuel and the Bills. A good look there at Tyrod Taylor. Spoke with him before the game. He says he's going to be ready to go. He practiced a little bit this week, but didn't feel like he was 100% able to go today against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right, the touchback to the 20-yard line after the 6-yard fumble recovery return for the team. Picked off! It's grabbed by Smith. It is a pick six!
Well, just keep an eye on Telvin Smith. I mean, that's what he's gonna drop. He's reading the eyes of E.J. Manuel the whole way. They play a lot of zone coverage. You see him, he just buzzes out there, and E.J. never feels Telvin Smith. Man, back-to-back mistakes by E.J. Manuel has it behind 21-3.
Myers good again, 21-3. They told Manuel this week, let it rip. Play loose. You think sometimes he plays too close to the vest.
Yeah, and part of the problem you have now is a good look at it. He never feels the linebacker, Kevin. He's trying to throw the hook route, the inside hook route to Robert Woods. You know, I think if you're Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, I think you're trying to help him. You're trying to protect him. But look, you know, you're without so many players. I mean, they're so banged up right now on offense. You don't have Watkins. You don't have Harvin, Goodwin, the right side of your offensive line. It really forces you to change the offensive game plan, especially now that you have a quarterback that is struggling a little bit with his confidence and decision-making.
First-round pick. And to think of his story, Rich, he comes in as a first-round pick of another coach. Now they've had change. He didn't win the quarterback competition this summer either.
No, and I think that, you know, Ken, I think he's afraid to make a mistake, and right now he's got to be just beside himself. He didn't want to come out here and obviously, you know, play poorly, but I think right now if you're Greg Roman, it's time to crank up the running game with LaShawn McCoy. Defensively, Buffalo's got to do something special to get back in this game.
Boom Herron was ripped down by Thurston Armbrister on a 22-yard return. Jacksonville's defense has scored 2 touchdowns in 7 seconds, and Telvin Smith leading the way, one of the top tacklers in the NFL. He came on last year and has been a star in the linebacking core for the Jaguars.
He is really explosive. It's amazing. You look at Telvin Smith and how quickly he can move, Kevin. He ran a 4.47 at the combine out of Florida State. And he's got size to go along with it. He's 6'3", he's 223 pounds, and he covers a lot of space in a short period of time.
Let's see the reaction. Here comes Manuel. Got a block from his tight end and takes it with the quarterback run out to the 27 and picks up 12 on the play.
And just look at Telvin Smith's numbers. Look at his 59 tackles, second in the NFL. Look at that max speed, 21.5. That's flying for a linebacker, third fastest among linebackers. Look at the distance he's run, over 7,200 yards. That tells you he plays sideline to sideline for Jacksonville defensively.
We know that with the next gen because it's the first time this year the NFL tracking every move by every player in every stadium, even here at Wembley. It's 1st and 10 after the 12-yard gain. Not a lot of running room right there. There's Smith making the tackle. Grabs McCoy. He is the second leading tackler. Telvin Smith is a loss of a yard right there. Smith, the second leading tackler in the NFL since he began last year, week 12. Right back into Quell Jackson in terms of tackles in the league.
And Kevin, we spoke about some of the young up-and-coming stars that Jacksonville has offensively. I think when you look at defensively, I think Jonathan Cyprian's going to be a good player, but Telvin Smith, I've been really impressed as I've watched the film of this team over the last couple of weeks. He makes a lot of tackles for the Jags.
Ready? Second down, 12, LaShawn McCoy. Telvin Smith drills him. He got him back at about the 20-yard line. It's a loss of 4. Smith is everywhere this afternoon.
Well, he's just got a nose for the football. I mean, look at this. Just runs around the blockers, and LaShawn McCoy has nowhere to go. It's unusual, Kevin, to see a linebacker that has that speed.
McCoy, the last 3 runs he has had have all lost yardage.
Look at these numbers, 3rd and 16. I mean, this is, again, screen or draw to help the quarterback is struggling right now.
Aaron in the backfield. They need the 37. Manuel. It's picked off by Puslesny. Another turnover. He gets up. He fumbles the ball, which then goes out of bounds. It is Jacksonville's ball. Puslesny comes up with his second interception of the season.
Kevin, look how deep the linebackers are. And Paz is the one that's actually going to make the play. But on 3rd and 16, you can't fight zoning linebackers. Look how deep Puslesny is. What's he doing? He's reading the eyes of the quarterback the entire way. Kevin, I'd make a change at quarterback. The problem is they just brought in Josh Johnson this week. They only have 2 quarterbacks dressed for the game.
Rich, this is Josh Johnson's 4th different team this year. Cincinnati, the Jets, the Colts, and now the Bills. So the Jaguars with 3 takeaways in less than 2.5 minutes. They had 3 altogether coming into this afternoon.
You look at Josh Johnson, he's got the plays on his left wrist. I mean, he's still learning the playbook. I mean,
and that's never come from him.
Jeez, oh man, what an ugly start for E.J. Manuel.
Bortles 1st and 10, Yeldon. Into a thicket, not much there, down to the 32, and picks up 4. It's amazing, Rich, how some of these things can just turn a game, a pick, a fumble recovery, and that's at least what it's done so far for Jacksonville.
Yeah, I was really expecting Manuel to play better this week, Kevin. You know, he's very conscientious. We talked to the coaching staff on Friday. He walked through every 3rd down play on Thursday night after meetings with an assistant coach in one of the ballrooms at the hotel. And it's not like he doesn't understand it. He's making some poor decisions in critical situations.
It's a 2nd and 6. Mario Williams with pressure. It's off to Lewis. He's grabbed from behind by both Bradham and Hughes and takes him down to the 28 with a gain of 5. A catch and run. Mercedes Lewis.
Well, he is a big tight end, Kevin. 6'6". He's 275 pounds. To find a way to get him the ball a little bit more in space. When we think of Julius Thomas so much, you're going to see Lewis. He's in there initially blocking, and then he just slips out. Tries to get in behind those big offensive linemen down the field.
That's kind of what he's known for, isn't he? He's walking.
He is an inline player. He can move you at the point of attack in the running game.
3rd down 1, Yeldon. Blocked by Julius Thomas. There was a block inside, thrown by Beatles, and it's a touchdown run by Yeldon. 28 yards. Zane Beatles on the offensive line. Open the way, and they cash in on the interception thrown by Manuel. Yeldon with his first rushing touchdown in his career.
Yeah, initially he gets caught up in the wash, and then he switches lanes, and then once he gets up on the second level, he's such a tough tackle. Really terrific run by T.J. Yeldon.
They're going to review this to see, as they review every scoring play, where was his knee and when did the ball cross. 8:25, second quarter. Jaguars have shifted gears. The NFL on Yahoo is brought to you by CC's Unlimited Stuffed Crust Pizza in London. They're taking a look to see if rookie running back T.J. Yeldon.
After review, the ruling on the field stands. Touchdown.
He did. 28-yard touchdown run. Jacksonville's first touchdown in 173 rushes. Mike Carey is back in New York and watching. Mike, good morning to you, and what did you think of the call?
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, I like the call. Now, if you piece this together, you watch Yeldon's knee hits on his right knee inside the 1 yard line. We don't get a shot down the goal line, but you can see that inside the 1 yard line, he's stretched out. When you're sitting in your living room or in your bedroom on the left coast, you can see he's longer than 2 yards long. The chance of that not being a score is remote. That's why they went with stands.
Terrific, Mike. Thank you for joining us. You'll be with us all game long. Jason Myers just missed his extra point for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has now missed 3 this year. He's missed 3 extra points this season for the Jags.
Well, Kevin, if you're Buffalo, I mean, you got to be shell-shocked. You're down 24, and what can you do? I mean, I think if you're Rex Ryan, you look at the scoreboard, there's 8:25 left to go here in the half. I mean, you have to have that conversation with the quarterback and say, hey, look, let's put behind us what's happened. Let's go out there and make some plays. We can't get it all back in one drive. Let's think about just making some first downs. Let's gain some confidence. Let's find a way to develop some rhythm in the passing game.
Rich, you played for so many years. You've been in positions like this.
No, I have never been in a position like this. Stop saying it. I've never thrown interceptions
Let's
like
just
this.
hypothetically say
okay,
if you had been. What is it like? Here's Boone Aaron who's going to take it out from about 6 yards deep. And then he is drilled with a big hit by Jacobs, a reserve tight end who's a good blocker. As you can see there, pretty good tackle on special teams. But how do you keep yourself in the game when you're down by this much this early?
Well, Kevin, I think you really feel bad for your teammates. I mean, you start coming off the field and people start looking at you funny. Defensive players start looking at you. Coaches start looking at you. Then what they start doing is they start avoiding you. You start sitting on the sidelines. No one wants to sit near you. But, again, you got to put your arm around A.J. Manuel. He's all you have today, and he has to find a way to go out there and try and get this team back in this game.
It's McCoy. That's how you do it right there. Brought down on the play by Jonathan Cyprien. He's out to the 27. And it is a gain of 12. Here is the missed extra point by Myers. His 3rd missed extra point. Now, remember, they had a competition between him and Josh Scobie. They eventually traded Scobie to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh let Scobie go. So some extra point issues for Myers and Scobie, and nonetheless, you can see the score. With the run here by Manuel, and a nice tackle made by Chris Clemens, who returned that fumble recovery 6 yards for a touchdown earlier. There's a pickup of 3. He's out to the 30.
And the other thing that hurts Buffalo, Kevin, is you're still trying to monitor the workload for LaShawn McCoy, and you don't have Carlos Williams available. And they really want to use a platoon of backs. And this is an offensive coordinator that's committed to running the football, especially when you consider the current quarterback situation.
Ready? Second down and 7. With Greg, the tight end, grabbing it. And then Cyprien grabbing him. Make that Charles Clay. Clay is the one to grab it across the middle. Clay with the pickup about 8 yards, and it is a first down.
And they have to find a way to get him the ball a little bit more, Kevin. Since week 3, he's had 24 catches. He's been on a roll. He gives them some speed at the tight end position.
First catch for Clay. And they go outside here for Hogan. Big, strong receiver who they like. And again, the top 2 receivers are out with injury. Harvin is out with a hip and some personal declarations. And, of course, we got Sammy Watkins who's out as well with an injury.
And they're trying to pick up the pace here a little bit, Kevin. You can see they're getting the plays in quicker. They're trying to do a pseudo no huddle here. Sometimes that can help a quarterback find his rhythm.
Heron in, second down 3. Boom Heron. Ceiling block outside. There's a gain of about 5. He's out to midfield. And he's got a first down.
Well, Greg Roman, talked to him on Friday as well, Kevin. He felt really good about their preparation. He didn't want them getting bored or getting too comfortable. So what did he do? He threw the whole playbook at them this week. And he really felt like this team would come out and play well. I don't think anyone anticipated this kind of start.
Manuel first and 10. One hop to the wide receiver, Robert Woods, incomplete. This is an offense, Rich, that has used a league-high 30 different players on offense this season.
No, you don't see this too often in the NFL, Kevin. I mean, just missing a one hop and a ball to a receiver, a wide open Robert Woods. I think part of it is his footwork. I think at times he gets rushed and he hurries throws, and he either misses low or high. I mean, accuracy issues have been a real problem for E.J. Manuel.
With a second down and 10. Run down to the 47-yard line. LaShawn McCoy, and around his ankles he found Cyprian with the gain of 3. We talked to Manuel, and he said he thought he was over-analyzing things. Well, he's got a lot to analyze right now after this start.
Yeah, sometimes you can, I think you can think too much and try and be perfect. And I think part of it is his preparation's been very good. But let's be honest, they don't want him thrown it 40 times a game. When you can look at their wide receiver situation, the fact that they're missing the right guard and right tackle. They have to have some balance and some success on the early downs running the football.
At the 3rd and 7, lowered into Woods, caught it right in front of Devon House, has the first down, well placed, 39-yard line, pickup of 8, and they'll move the chains.
He's making the easy throws look difficult. And this is good protection, and watch the receiver have to go down low and get it.
Hey, girl 55. Ready?
First down and 10. Get her on Quanjo. Woods on the side, shoved out of bounds by Aaron Colvin. It's a first down reception. They're down to the 27, a pickup of 11.
And this is an offense that I think E.J. Manuel can be very productive in. Remember, he was excited when they hired Greg Roman because Greg Roman had all that success with Colin Kaepernick early in his career. And I think E.J. is a similar type player, Kevin. He's got some pretty good mobility. He's got a lively arm. But he has struggled a little bit functioning like Kaepernick from the pocket.
Hey, Mike 50, trio.
First down and 10. And McCoy brought down immediately by Dan Scuda, played last year with San Francisco, started 11 games. It is a gain of about 2, down to the 25. Manuel's telling us he worked out with Steve DeBerg in the offseason.
Yeah, he did. And I think that's a good thing. I think more of these players, Kevin, as we go around and visit the different teams, they're taking the time to go grab someone in the offseason. They're not allowed to work with the coaches. So, DeBerg's a guy that I think really helped him. He actually moved in with him. He spent the better part of the offseason down there in Tampa living with Steve DeBerg.
Second down, 8. That's right on the screws, and it's caught by Chris Hogan. He's brought down by Josh Evans. That's a pickup of 9, so he's marched downfield. Clay with a catch of 8, Hogan 7, Hogan with 9, Woods for 11.
And DeBerg, as you mentioned, Kevin, he really worked on E.J. Manuel's throwing motion and his mechanics. A little bit of a less of a windup and trying to be more compact. The other thing is, as you study him, he held the ball with the nose out as opposed to down. Right. Kind of an unnatural and unusual position.
Hey, girl 55.
Manuel 1st and 10. And going for the end zone, and Woods, touchdown! Working on Grotz, who got the start today for the demoted Devon House. What a throw, a 16-yard, beautifully placed touchdown pass by E.J. Manuel.
What a terrific throw in the back of the end zone. I think he gets that right foot in. He beats Gratz there. But nice job by E.J. looking off the safety and then throwing a little go route and putting a little arrow in it for Robert Woods. Well, they needed that in the worst way. It's a good drive and a good series for Buffalo.
Reggie, you called it as they were going, as they're taking a look at the scoring play once again, but the no huddle, speeding up the offense, quick hitters, and it got him in rhythm.
Yeah, just getting his confidence back, Kevin. He was actually 6 of 7 for 60 yards on that drive. Just keep an eye on the right foot, whether or not it touches the paint. Boy, it's really close.
I think I see green, though, between the foot and the chalk. As they now will review. Viewing a 16-yard touchdown pass, Manuel to Woods, 2:46 in the second. The NFL on Yahoo is brought to you by Applebee's All-In Burgers. Westminster Abbey.
After review, the rolling on the field stands. Touchdown.
16-yard touchdown pass. Manuel to Woods coming back after what were 3 consecutive scores by the Jacksonville Jaguars. A couple on defense. And a touchdown run at 28 by Yeldon. They got their own 16-yard touchdown pass right there. Changed the rhythm of their offense, as you talked about. And now the extra point coming from Dan Carpenter. That makes it 27-10. Creeping up a little bit more in this game. Mike Carey is in New York, and Mike, you've watched the replay.
Yes, I have, and if you look at the second replay, Rich, you had it right. Just as his right foot comes down, you see the Nike stripe. It's easy to confuse that with the chalk. That's why this was left stand on the field.
Yeah, it's actually the Nike swoosh, Mike. Come on, not a stripe, it's a swoosh. As a guy that represented the brand for 20 years, please, it's a Nike swoosh. But you're right. As we looked at it, Mike, that's what I saw. I think we were seeing part of the white, but I actually thought it was. That's a great look at it there. I thought it was Robert Woods' right shoe and his swoosh.
Think of all the free advertising they just got. Mike, thank you as always.
I don't think Mike ever wore Nike as an official. That's part of the problem.
They got to get a deal. Jordan Gay was brought back this week as their long kicker, their kickoff man. He's got the ball at the 35. Manuel trying to get his wits about him still. Nick Marshall is deep back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And here we go after the 16-yard touchdown pass. Manuel to Woods. And Marshall will bring it out. Undrafted and upended. And he's out near the 15-yard line. What a second quarter for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, after getting shut out in the first quarter, and a big throw here to Robinson for the first touchdown. Big sack fumble. Clemens is able to pick it up, scoop it up, and he goes in for the score. How about Telvin Smith and his speed and playmaking ability at the linebacker position? Then they finish it off with a really nice run on third down from T.J. Yeldon. 27 unanswered points there in the second quarter.
In 5 minutes and 40 seconds of time. Bortles 1st and 10. And on the wing and going for Thomas on the sideline. And the coverage across the way by Graham. Incomplete, 2nd down and 10. When they brought Julius Thomas in, I'm sure when they signed him from Denver, they thought he would become the focal point of their passing game.
Yeah, when you think about it, over the last 3 seasons, only one tight end has caught more touchdown passes than Julius Thomas. That's Jimmy Graham. 7 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown last week against Houston. They need him to be a big cog in this offense.
Yeldon running into the nickel. Not a lot right there. Preston Brown brings him down. It's a gain of 2. One of the nice things about these Buffalo linebackers, every down linebackers, Brown and Nigel Bradham.
Yeah, they play hard too, Kevin, and they have fun playing. And you look at this defense, and I mentioned at the beginning, it's a group that's underperformed, and that's the bottom line. They haven't been able to build on what they did a season ago. You look at where they're at in total defense, they're 18th. They were a top 5 unit last year, 21st in passing, 16th in scoring.
This will take us to the 2-minute warning. A lot of scoring defensively for Jacksonville. Bills just got on the board. 2-minute warning on Yahoo from London. 2-minute warning, 2 timeouts apiece here in London. 3rd and 8 coming up. You take a look at this quarter for the Jaguars with just the 2 first downs, what their defense has done today.
Yeah, really. That's what they need, Kevin. I mean, they need to play complementary football, and they've done that through the first half.
Green is hot. Mike 52, Mike 52, Green 80. Green is out.
3rd down 8, Jokel the block, but from the other side coming in, Mario Williams. He just devours the quarterback, Blake Bortles. Loss of 5, back to the 12, punting unit is on the field.
Well, good look at Mario Williams. He's just going to beat Parnell around the edge. He slides right back underneath. Blake Bortles actually steps up into that sack. This is what they need. This is good pass rush, has good push up the middle and speed off the edge, and that's what Buffalo has. When you have a healthy Kyle Williams and Darius inside, and then you've got Mario Williams and Jerry Hughes off the edges.
Mario Williams gets his 3rd sack of the season, had 14 last year. The front from Anger and deep back Denarius Moore. Ooh, that was almost blocked. They got great pressure that time with Darden. 4. Star Tennessee got a block. Finds the room. And then drilled on the play by Toby Gerhart. 17-yard return by number 17 Moore on a 55-yard punt. On Tuesday, the Bills players held an NFL Play 60 event here in London. Hall of Famer Jim Kelly also helped put the kids through American football drills and exchange jerseys of the Tottenham soccer players. Also on Friday, Jaguars held a Play 60 event of their own. Over 160 kids were taught the finer points of American football, spending an afternoon with some Jacksonville players. Wembley Stadium, the new Wembley, the old Wembley, was on this site. Tore that down in about 2003. Opened this in time for the Olympics. But there's not a full-time occupant here. They just take international things like this, a big soccer game or a concert or American football. 1 timeout for Buffalo. 1st and 10 from midfield. Manuel, that was tipped, I think, at the line of scrimmage. Incomplete, and they were looking perhaps for Clay across the middle, 2nd down.
Well, great opportunity for E.J. Manuel. You got a good look at Dan Carpenter. The 1st down here, Kevin, they're in field goal range. 1:35, they've got a timeout left. It's a great opportunity to make this a two-score game at the half.
Manuel's got 10 completions today. Half of them have gone to his receiver, Robert Woods.
Hey, move.
2nd and 10. And there's Hogan. He found the gap. He was brought down in the secondary by Gratz. He picks up 14. He's got a 1st down. Hogan effective today. 3 catches, 30 yards. 1 timeout Buffalo. 2 timeouts Jacksonville. 1st and 10.
Run!
Incognito leading the way for McCoy. And he gets to the 31-yard line and brought down by Puz Lesney after a gain of 5.
You can hear Jacksonville call out run early. The big indicator is Richie Incognito. He's the one they want to pull the left guard. They feel a lot more comfortable. That's why a big percentage of their runs go to the right.
And they've got 2 new right of the center starters at guard and tackle.
It's going to be on Jacksonville.
Lost Henderson. Lost
Neutral
John
zone
Miller.
infraction. Defense number 51. 5-yard penalty.
unpleasant. We should mention John Miller, who is their rookie starting right guard out of Louisville. He had a family member pass away Thursday, flew back on Friday, and he was there with family in Miami, his hometown. Obviously, our thoughts go to John and his family. First down and 10. Going deep again and looking for Hogan with the coverage in the secondary by Dwayne Krotz. Incomplete.
I was just going to say they have time to take a couple shots now, and they go right back after. Congrats to the corner who gave up the touchdown to Robert Woods earlier. You got to test him.
And he was getting the starting job today because of what happened to Devon House, who was the starter at that position last week against DeAndre Hopkins of Houston.
He got worked over last week. It's never a good thing when the guy you're covering is the AFC Offensive Player of the Week.
Second down, 10, Clay. And he's brought down by Josh Evans. The gain of 6 on the play, put him at the 20. One timeout remaining for Buffalo.
Got a hustle here now.
But I like this no huddle. This rhythm has really helped the quarterback.
It's taken a long time to get the communication out.
Manuel looking for Hogan. Coverage by House.
Speaking of House,
he was right on it. Big free agent signee from the Green Bay Packers. 12 seconds to play in the half.
Well, really nice coverage here. Devon House does a nice job seeing the ball and getting that left hand in there, knocking it away from Chris Hogan.
Actually, perfect coverage. Shocker's hand in there. So, 38-yard field goal coming up for Carpenter, who has already kicked one this afternoon from 31. And that is drilled. And 3 more on the board. And they've gone from a 27-3 deficit to now a deficit, the Bills, of 27-13.
Kevin, that's huge. I mean, no sense of panic on the Bills sidelines. And again, 2 scores now made this a 2-score game. And the quarterback looks a little bit different, doesn't he?
He does. Well, you talked about getting rhythm, and don't want to beat a dead horse here, but the point is that they had to get something to kind of charge him back into it, because he had been really in a very low trough with the fumble.
Let's just be honest, he was in a bad place.
Yes, he was.
He was in a bad place.
I'm trying to be delicate.
But you know what? This is great to see. You love it when a young quarterback fights through some adversity. And, you know, you can't have a panic button. We talk about it all the time, Kevin, at the quarterback position. Because when you begin to panic, then everyone around you begins to panic. The play caller begins to panic.
And you don't want your coach to panic, and I don't think Rex Ryan is in that mind.
No, he's been in too many firestorms.
Jordan Gay will kick this off. Nick Marshall. Oh, he has to come now. Yep. Hold on. What are they?
He didn't have to initially. Did he?
That was the question. Had he gotten his foot on the chalk? And it looked like he was
in a pretty
okay.
good position. I think he just loses.
Denard Robinson.
Well, he went down.
Yeah.
The
Robinson
official was a little late with the whistle. See Gus Bradley over there making sure.
Make sure the communication is right.
You don't need a mistake with 8 seconds left to go in the half. You're going to come out and kneel on the ball anyway. Why even bring it out?
Rich, the problem with the Jaguars this year has not been the first half of games. It's been holding on and making that big play in the second half of games to hold on to the lead.
They haven't learned to finish late. That's the problem.
We'll see if they can.
You know, they've lost the 4 one-possession games already this season.
So a couple field goals by the Bills. Also a touchdown pass of 16 yards to Woods. And scores for Jacksonville, including a Clemens fumble return touchdown of 6 yards. Telvin Smith a pick 6 for 26. Yeldon with a handoff and a run of 28 for a touchdown. Jacksonville scored 27 points in 5 minutes and 40 seconds, and Buffalo scored 10 points in 2 minutes and 38 seconds. And that's how our first half looks here in London. with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have lost 4 consecutive games on top 27-13. Jamie is downstairs.
Coach, a couple of firsts for you guys. First of all, 2 defensive touchdowns in the first half. How are you getting after E.J. Manuel so well?
Well, I like the way we're playing. We're playing really aggressive, whether it's bringing pressure or in our coverage. Feels like the guys are playing the principles pretty well.
But in terms of keeping this lead, what needs to continue to happen on offense?
We're making foolish penalties. You know, a couple on offense that we had third down conversions. And then this drive, we got to maintain field position on our special teams.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin.
Thank you, Jamie. Just a reminder that Toyota halftime is coming up next. With our halftime score 27-13, the Jacksonville Jaguars. In the first ever global live stream of an NFL game on Yahoo, the NFL sending their signal worldwide from London. Jaguars have scored on offense and defense in our first half here in London. As now we take a look at this highlight from the first half, brought to you by Emirates Airline. E.J. Manuel, the quarterback, with pressure, and Chris Clemens getting the ball and taking it in for 6 for the Jaguars. And there's a look at Clemens on that line. Great to have you with us from London Wembley Stadium. Let's talk about what this Buffalo team needs to do to get back in this.
Well, Kevin, I think they've got to build on the momentum they carried into the locker room with them at halftime. E.J. Manuel seemed to settle down a little bit. That's a good thing. I think defensively they need to be able to create some negative plays. You know, Jacksonville's got 3 takeaways. They need to be able to create some takeaways. And I think when you look at Jacksonville, offensively, they need more opportunities for Blake Bortles. The offense has only had 24 snaps. And then finally, they got to keep the pressure on. They're not a big blitzing team historically, but the pressures on third down have gotten home and have forced E.J. Manuel to making some really bad decisions. They got to continue to pressure on third down.
Jordan Gay will be kicking off to Nick Marshall for the Jaguars. Shy of 90,000 at Wembley today. And this kickoff will be taken 8 yards deep, with some communication there with Denard Robinson to keep it in the end zone to the 20 on a touchback and downstairs to Jamie Erdahl.
Kevin, I just spoke with Rex Ryan coming out of the half. He wouldn't admit to seeing anything in particular with quarterback E.J. Manuel's decision-making in the first half, but he does have the confidence in him moving forward. Defensively against the Jaguars, he complimented Blake Bortles on his patience thus far, but plan on seeing the Bills getting after him. But his last words to me, we're coming back.
Jamie, thank you. This has been a Buffalo team that has alternated wins and losses. Losing last week at home to Houston. Jacksonville last week was working with the Texans and lost to Houston 31-20 in our first play in the second half with a tackle by Bryant. Yeldon is taking it for a gain of 5 to the 25-yard line for the Jaguars, and through 30 minutes of football, here are some of the numbers.
Well, not a lot of plays we talked about for Jacksonville, but look at the points off of turnovers. The 3 costly turnovers from Buffalo, and it's a big reason why Jacksonville jumped off to the early lead.
Yeah, Mike 22, Mike 22. Green 80. Green is hit.
Second down and 5. The tight end Jacobs with the block. He gets by Duke Williams. He's chased by Preston Brown and then forced out of Browns by the defensive back across the way, Corey Graham. 16-yard run by Yeldon, the rookie, and a first down to the 41.
And Kevin, that could have been a run, a gain of 1 or 2, and yet Yeldon, or even a loss of 1 or 2, and yet Yeldon's able to kick out of a couple missed tackles, or would-be tacklers. I like how this kid finishes runs. And he's shown some real versatility. A lot of young running backs struggle in the passing game. He has been very good so far for Jacksonville in the passing game, especially on third down.
With a 1st and 10 pass and outside, and the twirling Julius Thomas gets it right in front of the defense of Duke Williams with a gain of 4 to the 45, 44-yard line.
I'm surprised we haven't seen any players slip. You know, we were down the field before the game. I thought it was a little wet. Guys were wearing their seven studded cleats, the screw-ins, most of them. But doesn't seem like anyone's really had a problem with the surface. Some of the players were saying that the grass was a little bit longer than you're used to.
Thomas after his first catch, 2nd down 6. Yeldon blocked by Jacobs. 1st down run into the secondary, where he was brought down by the linebacker Brown. It's a gain of 9 to the 46. Jamie.
Well, you guys mentioned earlier how they like when Richie Incognito pulls on that offensive line. He has been mindful on the sideline, both at the beginning of the game and the beginning of the half, to warm up, make sure he comes off the line explosively, because there is some slipping that's going on with some of these players. So watch that on the line in particular.
Rich, you said that when you played, you used to look what the home team had in terms of what kind of size cleats, and that probably guided you.
Yeah, but the problem is, who's the home? It's not like Jacksonville plays here every week. I'd come out in pregame warm-ups on the road and I'd watch and see what the players, the home team players, were wearing in terms of their shoes, and their cleats.
Charge timeout.
Bortles takes a timeout.
30-second timeout.
They'll go visit with offensive coordinator Greg Olson. Look at Gus Bradley. He was the defensive coordinator for Seattle. Now in his 3rd year.
Well, I like what we've seen so far from Blake Bortles, Kevin. He's the only quarterback in the league so far this season that's thrown for at least 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in back-to-back games. And he suffered through some growing pains last season as a rookie. He started 13 games, but I think he's shown that he has the ability to lead this team. And the biggest thing with him, he just needs to take better care of the football. That's the turnovers have been a concern.
Is he reading the whole field? Is he reading a half of the field? What do you see when you watch?
I think he's getting better. I think you talk to some Buffalo coaches, they don't feel like there's a lot of full field reads, but I think that's part of the evolution for a young quarterback.
Brings it down, gets it out. Lewis hit by Corey Graham with a catch and run down to the 37-yard line, a gain of about 9 or 10.
The one thing I like is his mobility in the pocket. He's got some suddenness to him for a bigger guy. Saw him last week against Houston, run all around and make a couple defenders miss. Can make big throws outside the pocket as well.
Green and 9, 2nd down 1. Gerhardt will gash that defense and find some room down to the 33-yard line and a gain of 3.
This offensive line for Jacksonville, Kevin, they've done a nice job. Joko, Beatles, Wisniewski, Can, Parnell. What's interesting is their coach. One sacks. Playing a lot better this year in front of Blake Bortles.
1st down 10. And down the sideline, hitting the helmet of Darby. Nice defensive coverage as they're going downfield for Hearns. 2nd down 10.
I really like these two corners, Stephon Gilmore and, of course, the rookie Darby. These guys do a very good job playing the ball in the air. And they also do a nice job, Kevin, taking on some bigger receivers, some taller, longer receivers.
Darby's getting accolades, too. Recognized around the league. 2nd down and 10. Yeldon cuts. And then brought down by Nickel Roby, who checks in. That's a gain of 6. It'll be 3rd and 4.
It's amazing. Yeldon's almost has 100 yards, Kevin. 99 yards on 13 carries.
He had a touchdown run earlier in the game, too. And they're popping downstairs.
Sometimes it's not necessary to see a good hit. You can just hear it.
Yeah, right. You felt a lot of those. Bortles, 3rd and 4. And on the cross, they've got the receiver, Allen Robinson, hit by Corey Graham. Slides out of bounds at the 20. Picks up 7. Another Jacksonville 1st down.
We're just going to run a little drive route. Robinson's going to come underneath. That's what you want. You want to get him matched up against those linebackers in space.
First down 10. Not much there, trying to squirm his way through. With the tackle made by Marcel Darius. on a gain of about 3. So on this drive, we got Yeldon with the run of 16, run of 9, Robinson a catch of 7, and Mercedes Lewis with a catch of 9.
The thing that's been impressive about Bortles so far, Kevin, he's done a nice job handling the blitz. And when we visited with him yesterday, he said, look, I'm not naive. I know Rex Ryan's going to continue to blitz me until I show him and the rest of that staff that I can handle it, that I have answers, I have tools in my toolbox.
Green is set.
On the 11th play of the drive, 2nd down, and a tackle made by defensive back Corey Graham. He seems to have his hand on every player that is got the ball, either catching or running. It's a gain of 1 for Yeldon.
Well, it's been a really nice drive. They started their own 20-yard line, 11 plays, 64 yards. Now they got to be able to finish it down in the red zone. Had their struggles down here. And talked to Greg Olson, talked about being a disciplined team in the red zone. No sacks, no penalties, and certainly no turnovers.
Into the nickel. 3rd down, 6. Moves up. Yeldon. And he got the first down. Terrific catch and a good read by Yeldon, seeing his quarterback in trouble. A pickup of 9. It's 1st and goal, Jacksonville.
This is a really nice job. I'm going to draw real quickly. Check out Yeldon. He's right here. He's initially going to block. They don't come. He gets out, and then it's not there. He still makes himself available. This is a really good alert play by the young running back. He gets out. He got an opportunity to get it. Now it's not there. Look at him just keep himself available right there and be quiet on the boundary. That's a terrific play by T.J. Yeldon.
Yeldon has got 1 touchdown run today. Forced out of bounds by Ronald Darby with a gain on the play of a couple. Maybe 1 to the 6, they'll put it. Bortles has thrown a touchdown pass today, 10 yards to Robinson. 2 defensive touchdowns. Clemens fumble return. Talvin Smith, a pick 6. And Yeldon the touchdown run. Yeldon goes wide this time, Rich, to top the screen.
Hey, Rex! 380!
I love these bunch sets down here as well.
2nd down, goal for Thomas. Flags, Graham defending. It's going to be on the tight end.
I don't think so.
It'll be on the tight end, I think.
Pass interference. Defense number
right,
20.
You're right.
Foul
I thought maybe there was a shove.
2-yard line. Automatic first down.
It's on Graham.
He's going to be covering Thomas to the corner. He just grabs and won't let go. I wouldn't let go either.
No, I wouldn't.
The guy catches a lot of touchdowns. 25 the last 3 seasons. Jimmy Graham has more with 28. This is really where this guy comes to life, down in the scoring zone.
6-2. We got 5-3.
Well, look, they've taken out every defensive back except a couple, except 2.
Green is set.
1st and goal. Gerhardt continues to dig. Pradham meets him and pushes him back. Nigel Pradham. There you see one of the 2 defensive backs in there, Bakari Rambo, who finally got that ball away, but after the whistle had blown.
Yeah, good penetration there. Initially gets it done. Talk about gang tackling.
8-minute drive.
53.
Gerhardt and Alu is the fullback. He is a defensive lineman. Jacobs in motion. Gerhardt is stuffed.
Well, that wasn't a very good run.
Stephen Charles among a couple on that defensive line.
He's just going to run right into the back of his offensive lineman. I mean, if he can just veer to the right a little bit, I thought there might have been an opportunity there. At some point down in this part of the field, Kevin, you got to knock somebody back. Hey, if I'm 1-5, this is 4-down territory for me if I'm Jacksonville.
This will be the 7th snap inside the 20. Gerhardt. Oh, what a great play. Wrapping him up. And on that line, there was Carrington.
Again, penetration. Look at the right side of the defensive line, the left side of the Jaguars offensive line. He got pushed back.
Alex Carrington, an original third-round draft choice by the Bills, makes the play now.
This sends a message to your football team at 1-5. We're not going to play conservative.
Defensive lineman there offers a block. That's where Gerhardt goes. Rambo is there, but Corey Rambo and others with terrific defense. They stopped Gerhardt 4 times from the 1.
And Kevin, you got to ask yourself, you've got TJ Yeldon. He's got 105 yards rushing. Why is he not in there running the football in this situation?
9.5-minute drive, nothing.
Well, back here in London, you got to ask yourself, why is TJ Yeldon not in there? I understand that Toby Gerhardt's kind of their short yardage and goal line specialist, but he doesn't really have that change of direction or that lateral mobility that you like and need down in the goal line.
Great goal line stand by Buffalo. On the 1 for the 1st and 10. That's Gregg. Chris Gregg with his 2nd reception today in a pickup of 6. They put him at the 7.
That was a huge goal line stand by Buffalo, Kevin, as you mentioned. Jacksonville goes 17 plays, 79 yards. They chew up over 9.5 minutes, and they come away with nothing.
Hey, quick, box. What?
Jacksonville on their base.
Ready? What?
Fake on 2nd and 4. Manuel being chased by Scuda. Got the first down. Good run right there out to the 12. A gain of 5 and a first down for Buffalo.
We'll do a nice job just coming out off the play action fake. Does a nice job selling it. Scuda's in position now. He's got the angle. I think he underestimates his speed. Maybe he overestimated his own speed.
Maybe.
That's even worse.
We've all done that. First and 10.
Hey, go, 55. Ready? Hot.
Manuel. It's picked up outside by Clay. He's upended outside by Aaron Colvin in the secondary. Gain of 12 and a first down as they wrapping up some ankles here.
You know, a lot of short and intermediate throws. We're trying to get the ball out of the hands of E.J. Manuel quickly. But what you're not seeing, Kevin, is them, puncture the ball down the field. And that's not surprised when you don't have Sammy Watkins and Percy Harvin out there that can really stretch a defense vertically.
McCoy 1st and 10. They pull incognito, and there he goes with LaShawn McCoy to the 35. Brought down by Scuda, picks up, looks like 9 on the play.
You just forget how good of a runner this guy is. Since 2010, no player has rushed for more yards than LaShawn McCoy. When you think about Marshawn Lynch, Arian Foster, Adrian Peterson, Matt Forte, over 6,300 yards. That's some pretty good company.
Indeed it is. Manuel Hogan drops it fallen. First down throw. Slants down to the 46. He picks up 12. Jamie downstairs.
Kevin, quickly, Zane Beadles on the sideline for the Jags right now. He's getting his right foot looked at. It's a foot screen from the team. He is questionable to return.
Well, they've already lost Linder on that offensive line for Jacksonville. 4 first downs. Last 4 plays. Everybody's had a hand in it. A spinning move by Heron. Corkscrews his way for a gain of 4, and he's up to midfield. So Gregg gets 1 for 6.
They must be having problems with the communication system. Kevin, the last couple of plays, we've seen E.J. Manuel have to run over the sideline to get the play from Greg Roman. It's not what he needs right now.
25, girl.
Second down 6. Block from Glenn. Woods will corkscrew to the 40. Hit by Gratz, and they're working on him. It's a gain of 10. A McCoy ran one for 10. Clay caught one for 12. Hogan caught one for 12. Manuel ran one and a first down for 5. The rhythm again picking up.
Yeah, he looks like a different player now. You see there the frustration from Greg Roman. He's having to literally call the plays into E.J. Manuel after every play as he runs over to the sidelines.
4 plays of 10-plus yards on this drive for the Bills, which started at their 1. It's to McCoy, looking for Hogan. Flag is down. Manuel running out of bounds. About the 38-yard line. Gain of 3 yards on the play.
Illegal use of hands to the face. Defense number 90. 5 yards penalty added to the end of the run. Automatic first down.
Andre Branch.
Just get a look at Andre Branch right there. He's going to take Cordy Glenn and he's going to push that face mask all the way back.
Hey, boy, 55! Ready?
Down in 10, they get it outside. Hogan. Colvin is there. Down to the 28 of Jacksonville on a gain of 5.
And Kevin, E.J. Manuel's anticipation and delivery so much better. I mean, he looks like he's really found his rhythm. Looks like the offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, has found a package of plays that he feels comfortable with in the offense.
Rich, when one side loses their communication, doesn't the other side have to stop as well?
Yeah, usually that's what happens. Now, I don't know if it's just EJ's helmet or the whole side, the whole system that's gone down between the booth and the sidelines.
McCoy, 2nd and 5, blocked by Incognito. McCoy is in the open, and he's down to there's a flag, a late one. Penalty will go on Josh Evans. The gain to the 12. A pickup of 16 by the elusive McCoy. He had a run earlier on this drive of 10.
Tripping. Defense, number 26. After this is to the goal. Automatic first down.
Man, look how quick he is to get up on the second level. I mean, you can really feel the extra gear right here when he takes off. And tripping, I do the same thing. How else are you going to tackle the guy? You got to do everything you can to get him on the ground.
That's exactly right. Felton, the fullback, is in here. 1st and goal. McCoy, Felton the block, Incognito the block. Flag is thrown to the pylon. And out of bounds, shy of it. Flag at the 9. And the 7, 2 of them.
There are 2 fouls on the offense. Illegal shift on the offense. 2 men moving prior to the snap did not reset. An illegal formation. Offense number 71 was on the end of the line. That penalty is declined. It is a 5-yard penalty for the illegal shift. First down.
When you get tired just running over back and forth to the sidelines, getting the play.
That's tough, and he's got him on a wristband. By the way, the first guy to use a wristband in pro football was Tom Natty when he had to sub as a quarterback for the old Baltimore Colts back in the 50s.
Didn't have as many plays in that wristband, I can promise you.
Did not. 1st and goal. Manuel, Boom Heron back down to the 8. And Puz Lesney was down there. Calvin Smith with a gain of 3. That takes us to the end of the 3rd. Jaguars on top, but the Bills are marching on Yahoo. Buffalo is down 27-3. They got back in this with a 16-yard touchdown pass to Wood from Manuel, a 31-yard field goal. And they're marching here again as we start the 4th quarter, down 27-13. Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon, Jamie Erdahl, our producer Ken Mack, and our director Mark Grant in London, Wembley Stadium. Close to 90,000 here. 2nd and goal. You see who's on the field for the Bills. Manuel, intercepted and dropped by Smith. He just about had his 2nd today. in his clutches and couldn't hold on. Incomplete, 3rd and goal.
Well, you can't fight zoning linebackers, and you're going to see Smith right here. He almost gets another one. And in talking to Paul Posluszny on Friday, he said that E.J. Manuel, he has half-field reads. He's not going to try and move you with his eyes. Where he looks is where he's going with the ball. We've seen that most of the day out of E.J. Manuel.
3rd and goal. Looking for Craig. Covered by Cyprien. And Craig was having trouble lining up as they were getting that play arranged.
Well, you got to give him a chance to make a play. You're going to see him, he's just going to work to the corner of the end zone. He's looking back inside, and the ball's actually going to go over his right shoulder, out of bounds. You got to give him a chance to make a play on the ball.
Okay, you were wondering if they're going to go for it. If they got in this territory, try for 3, they're going to go for the field goal.
Well, I said if it possibly, Kevin, could be 4-down territory, I would have prefaced it by saying if they got themselves in a situation where it's 4th and goal at the 1. In a manageable situation, possibly, but not in this situation.
Oh, we've had, in this half alone, 1 long drive each team. This is a 26-yard field goal, which is up and through for Carpenter. 26 yards. He's kicked one from 31. He's kicked another one from 31. Early 4th. The NFL on Yahoo is brought to you by Zillow. Zillow, find your way home. Tower Bridge. Fall here in London. Trees much like they would be in the Northeast. Upper Midwest. Well, down 27-3. Rex Ryan has worked his team now to within a 27-16 reach of the Jaguars as Jordan Gay is brought back this week as their kickoff man is ready. Nick Marshall awaits in the end zone. He's told to keep it there from Robinson. 14:50 in the 4th. Blake Bortles comes back out there with the lead. London. The NFL on Yahoo is brought to you by Kohl's. Busy afternoon in Piccadilly Circus. Plan to wake up early next week. It's the Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs next Sunday from London. Kickoff 9:30 a.m. Eastern from Wembley. Well, playing with the lead, the Jaguars have not been all that successful with that this season.
Yeah, they've got to learn to cap off one of these long drives.
380.
After the kickoff and after the Buffalo field goal, Bortles 1st and 10. Dropped. Allen Hurns with a convoy of defenders right there, including Ronald Darby. 2nd down 10.
Hey, look at the second half possessions here. Just 31 plays between the two teams and just 3 points to show for it. That's all we got out of the 3rd quarter. Jacksonville will be kicking themselves for not finishing off that drive that they had.
17 plays, 9.5 minutes. Left it at the 1. 2nd down and 10. It's out of the reach of Thomas. He was defended on the play by Duke Williams. Ball went back of him. Now, is that a receiver issue or is that a quarterback issue?
Well, I think you're late with your eyes, Kevin, as you're the quarterback. Watch Blake Bortles. He's going to start out, and he's actually working to his left initially. Look at his eyes. He's going to be working to his left, and then he's late to come back with his eyes, and now he just completely misses his tight end, throwing the ball behind him. Can't be late with your eyes, especially as you work from one side of the field to the other.
Last 6 plays, no yards at all for this offense. 3rd down and 10.
Well, they get that running back right up in there. They're expecting some type of internal pressure. They've showed it, and they've also bailed in this situation.
Here they come. Brown can't get him. Chased by Darius. Dropped across the way. Incomplete. Looking for Hurns. And Nigel Bradham was over there chasing and hustling for the Bills. 3 and out. They got a punt.
Well, they show you these looks, and then they bring it, and then you get a clean rusher. And Blake Bortles, I mean, no one winds up blocking. The linebackers come screaming right up the middle of the field, and Preston Brown. I mean, Blake Bortles had no chance in that situation.
You see the awaiting Denarius Moore.
It's a couple times now they've run a player on the field late in a special team situation.
You're right. Anger to punt. He's got some air under this one. Here comes Moore from the 31. Hang time of 4-6. Got by the first wave. Gets a block. Cuts inside. There goes a flag. And there goes Denarius Moore, who is brought down on the play by the punter. Anger got him. A return of 30 on a punt of 49. And the flag is down.
During the return, illegal block in the back. Receiving team number 58. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Randall Johnson picks it up. Terrific talk the other day with Rex Ryan, and we began this game talking about how his defensive players, Rich, had vocally, publicly criticized his defensive scheme. And Rex, we've got to take a long, hard look at what we ask our guys to do. So he even conceded maybe it wasn't the right time at certain times to do what they did last week.
Well, they did something they normally don't do last week against Andy Dalton and the Bengals. They had some three-man rushes, and you got guys like Mario Williams dropping in space, and that's not what they're comfortable doing. That's not what, I shouldn't say it's not what they're paid to do. These are guys that want to rush the passer and create havoc, and I think we're seeing a lot more of that today from Rex and his defense. A lot more four-man rushes and even some 5- and 6-man pressures against Blake Bortles.
Base defense, first down and 10. Manuel wants some depth here, and he's got it. Robert Woods, 15-yard pickup down to the 45-yard line. Devon House was there, and a first down for Buffalo.
We were talking earlier in the game, Kevin, about the lack of anticipation. This is terrific. This ball actually comes out of E.J. Manuel's hands long before Robert Woods even comes out of his break. He's really thrown the ball a whole lot better since maybe the middle of that second quarter.
We keep telling you about the right side of that offensive line. New Urbeck is in for John Miller, who's got a family situation. Quanjo is in for Henderson.
These guys have held up well.
First and 10. McCoy locked down by Roy Miller. The two top receivers are gone. Kyle Williams is gone.
That's tough on, Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator. I mean, I know he's frustrated because they just haven't been able to develop any continuity with the offense because of all the injuries. You're without your starting quarterback. You've got the running back that's been out. Now you got your backup running back that's out, Carlos Williams. We talked about both receivers that are out. Now you lose the right side of your offensive line. You try calling plays.
Not to mention your starting quarterback's gone too. This is McCoy. Tripped up by Telvin Smith as he crosses the 40 and down to the 36 and picks up 6, bringing up 3rd and 1 for the Bills.
Well, Sean McCoy is a tremendous competitor. He just loves playing football, loves being in these situations. And I think in critical situations, Kevin, it's important to think of players and not plays. I'm thinking about getting the ball to LaShawn McCoy. The other guy I have to get involved a little bit more is Charles Clay. He has just 3 catches for 26 yards. He's been very quiet.
McCoy, 17 carries, 69 yards, 3rd down 1. And there go flags.
That's bad.
False start. Offense number 60. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Urbeck, who has appeared in every game this season. First start was a couple weeks ago. Second start today.
They just can't do it. The mistakes are magnified when you've got so many players out. In a very manageable situation, now you get a false start penalty and you find yourself in a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7.
3rd and 6. Manuel looking for Hogan with the coverage on Gratz.
Oh, they got away with one there.
Yellow on the field. 4th. Oh, there is yellow. Now they called it right here.
Roughing the passer. Defense
There was a passing. Yes, it was roughing the passer.
2-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
Roughing the passer was the call. And that is called on Andre Branch.
Well, this one comes out on time, too. He just gets it. Oh, right there. Yep, if you get anywhere near the helmet or head of the quarterback, Kevin, they're going to throw that flag every time. Branch not at all happy about it. Nor is Gus Bradley.
First and 10, 26-yard line of Jacksonville.
It's a big penalty to keep that drive alive.
Manuel, McCoy. Kozlowski chases. What a block by Woods. Look at McCoy. Fumble. Flag. Another. It was recovered, they say, by Evans. It's going to be on Buffalo. Boy, McCoy was in a grip.
He got hit. He got throttled.
He did.
Personal foul, illegal peelback block prior to the fumble. Offense number 10. 15-yard penalty will be added to the end of the play. First down, Jacksonville.
And the fourth Buffalo turnover.
Well, it's a terrific effort here, but watch at the end. He's got the ball. Look how he's carrying the football. Watch this hit. Right there. That was the hit that did it from Gratz.
They're looking at McCoy, 11:53 to go. We'll step aside in London. As you can see, McCoy is up and on his feet and headed to the sideline. They just turned the ball over on a fumble, the fourth turnover today for the Bills.
This is a big-time hit from Dwayne Gratz. I mean, McCoy's not a fumbler, Kevin, but he just dislodges that ball with a big-time hit to the back of LaShawn McCoy. Fourth turnover today for the Buffalo Bills.
And although the fumble was inside the 5, a penalty was leveled against the Bills, so it's out of the 19. The Birtles will begin it there with a little breathing space. First down and 10.
Green is up.
Yeldon is out to the 22-yard line. Minimal gain. Corey Graham, Brown out there, and a gain of 3.
This is TJ Yeldon time. He's already got 108 yards rushing. Talked about the injury to Kyle Williams and not having him in there, Kevin. This is really where you miss him in the running game. Does so much of the dirty work in there, taking on double teams.
Second down, 7.
Green is up.
Inside, quick slant, drop, nice coverage on the play. Allen Robinson was in the sights of his quarterback, and Ronald Darby comes in, disrupts the play.
That was a terrific play by Darby. He gets a really good break on the ball. He gets there almost at the same time. You got to take some chances now, Kevin. I think if you're Buffalo defensively, they've got to be able to create a negative play, a fumble or a turnover. You look at the turnover differential. Buffalo's turned the ball over 4 times. Jacksonville hasn't turned it over once.
5 in the secondary. Here they come. Third down and 7. Bortles. That's incomplete. He's missed his last 5 passes. Again, they were going for Hearns. And again, the coverage was by Ronald Darby.
That's a great 3 and out. Big time stop by Buffalo to keep him in this game. And Kevin, as we get a good look at Denarius Moore, he's done a nice job here returning punts. He was close the last time they had the penalty. And when you're struggling a little bit, this is a way to get yourself right back in the game. A big return in the kicking game.
Andrew to send a good block by Gerhardt. Here comes Denarius Moore, who
he had
called
room.
for, and there's a flag thrown. He had all kinds of room, Rich.
I'm really surprised he did that. It was a low kick to begin with. He's going to get a talking to from Danny Crossman, the special teams coordinator of the Bills, when he gets to the sidelines.
Flag will go on the Jaguars.
Player going out of bounds on a punt on his own. Kicking team number 41. 5-yard penalty added to the end of the play. First down, timeout.
Jacksonville has lost 4 in a row. Bills come in 3-3. They've got the ball, and they're down 27-16 on Yahoo.
Well, welcome back to London. Robert Woods really gave Buffalo some life with this 16-yard touchdown in the second quarter. And you look at the next-gen stats, we thought that Clay would be the guy, and it's actually been Woods, 7 receptions, 68 yards. And a lot of these routes, they're all vertical routes, not a lot of short stuff with Woods.
After the second consecutive 3 and out, first and 10, going deep and looking for Gregg with the coverage by Cyprien. Taking down. The great thing about those next-gen stats, they allow viewers a chance, Rich, to analyze the game in a much deeper way. Never been available before until now.
And we've got McCoy back in the game. Didn't take him very long,
Nope.
Kevin. He was out there in the first play. And I just like getting it. You know, if you're E.J. Manuel, you've got to be patient versus this Jacksonville defense. They play so much zone coverage. Those checkdowns, we saw the previous check down to McCoy the way he fumbled the ball. That's the matchup I want. I want him matched up on the linebackers.
With a couple tight ends, Hogan right in front of Scooter, the linebacker. There's a matchup you're looking for out to the 47-yard line, close to a 10-yard game. We'll call it 9, so it will be 3rd and 1 for Buffalo. Manuel.
Well, the one official on the far side looks like he's giving it to us. It'll be close. You know, there's an art form to being a good sneaker as a quarterback.
And what is that?
I think it's getting low and getting behind that offensive line and getting some push and extending the ball when you have the opportunity.
You good?
That was okay.
Yeah.
You know what was really good was John Elway. He was terrific.
Was
he was
he?
a bigger
Was so
quarterback.
strong,
And what he would
yeah.
do is he wouldn't go in that A-gap between the center and the guard. He'd go outside.
Brady's good at it.
He is good at it.
1st and 10.
He's good at some other things, too.
McCoy. Yes.
Like throwing the football, maybe.
Cyprian.
You can't miss that throw, Kevin. You know, you got when you throw it to the backs, you got to put it on them. You got to give LaShawn McCoy a chance to make a play in space. Look, he's late with his eyes, and now he just flicks it out there. Put it on him.
And you always say a quarterback has got to trust his eyes.
You got to, and you got to see out in front of throws. That's been a problem a little bit today for E.J. Manuel.
Aaron is in.
Give it to the back. He's right there.
Dropped by Clay. Backed away by Evans, perhaps. Pushing after the play. Separated. 3rd and 10 coming up. Pushing was away from the ball.
And Clay, this is what you want. Got to make that catch. You're getting paid too. You know, E.J. Manuel's trying to make a throw. You got to make those plays.
And Clay has been
quiet. You know, part of the problem is, Kevin, you don't get these guys going early in the game. You don't get in a rhythm.
Woods has caught 7 manual passes. He's 21 of 38. With a couple of interceptions and a touchdown. 3rd and 10. Ball is stripped. It's loose. Stripping it inside was Clemens. It's recovered by Buffalo. It's 4th down. Chris Clemens and Branch have been active.
Kevin, you can't be asleep at the wheel. Where the pressure's been showing up? They've been pressuring on 3rd down. Talk about the importance of ball security. Terrific job by Andre Branch stripping the ball from E.J. Manuel.
Branch missed the first 3 games with the knee injury. Debuted this season back in week 4 against Indianapolis. Running situation for Colton Smith. Walters lets it bounce. And it is down by Marcus Easley at the 3. 56-yard punt by Colton Schmidt, whose best game up until today was against the Giants. The NFL on Yahoo is brought to you by CiCi's Pizza. Better believe it. The Buffalo Bills came into today 3-3, alternating wins and losses. They lost last week at home to Cincinnati. In the East, with the big one brewing in Foxborough today between the 5-0 Pats and the 4-1 Jets. You can see where this ranks for Ryan. We're early in the season, nonetheless important.
Yeah, they're in 3rd place behind the Jets and the Patriots, Kevin.
Start. Oh, offsides.
Neutral zone infraction. Defense number 55. 5-yard penalty. 1st down.
Jerry Hughes.
And going back to that schedule and that record, you see Hughes, he's just going to jump the gun a little bit. Can't get back in time, but at 3-3, they lose this one. Buffalo, they're certainly not going to help their chances in that division. Of course, consider they haven't made the playoffs in 15 years.
Problem. First and 5. Purnell with a lingering block, and Yeldon to the 12. Gain of 4.
Jacksonville's done a nice job, Kevin, getting the ball out quickly. You know, Rex Ryan has made a living out of making life miserable for young quarterbacks, and yet they've only sacked Bortles once today. I think when you look at what Indy did week 1, they held the football and they got rocked. And the Patriots went into Buffalo in week 2, got the ball out quickly. More quarterbacks, that's what teams are doing now. They're not holding the football against this Buffalo front.
Hughes grabbed the waves of Yeldon on a 2nd down and 1 and maybe a gain of a yard, and you'll see where they spot him. Looks like the 12 he needs beyond the 13, so it will be 3rd and 1.
What a difference a week makes for Greg Olsen in the running game. I mean, just getting a healthy TJ Yeldon back. He missed pretty much the 2 weeks of practice. Didn't really even do anything on Thursday back in Jacksonville. Did a light walkthrough and was still pretty tender on Friday. He was going to be a game-time decision. We saw him come out early and warm up and work out. Looked pretty good. He's already got 112 yards rushing on 19 carries against one of the better run defenses in football.
Timeout. Jacksonville uses their 2nd. 1 remaining. Jacksonville has not captured a first down in the last 14 minutes of game time. With a look at the South.
Well, you look at the South, the Colts got Andrew Luck. Houston is going back and forth. Tennessee Titans, Kevin, they have a young quarterback in Marcus Mariota who's hurt, not going to play this week. And Jacksonville's got a young quarterback as well, and Blake Bortles is a 2nd-year player. It's tough to win when you don't have continuity and consistency at the quarterback position.
3rd down 1.
Hey, Stitch there. Mike's 52. You guys come down. Stitch 52. 380 to 53.
Alu is the fullback. He gets the call. Grinding and pounding his way, and that defensive line looks to have stopped him again. He didn't get it, Rich. It's 4th down.
That's a little unusual, isn't it? Give your defensive lineman the ball to short yardage situation, but he goes in there with a full head of steam, doesn't he?
He has caught a pass. That was against Miami earlier in the season. They threw, in fact, to him last week, and it was incomplete.
He's holding on to that ball, isn't he? He's got 2 hands on it. Look at it. He's holding on for that.
Look at
for dear life.
Huh? Bradham in that avalanche of white jerseys coming in there to stop him.
I think
That's his first carry.
I think he's going to be just short.
He looked like a rugby player, which they've got a bunch of them here in London with the World Cup of Rugby. Missed it. We've had 2 consecutive 3-and-outs, and Jacksonville will bring their punting unit onto the field.
How about this, Kevin? Jacksonville's been stopped on 6 plays where they needed a yard or less. 6 plays. You talk about the importance of situational football. How about short yardage and goal line offense?
Yeah.
It's been bad. You give the ball to Toby Gerhart. You give the ball to Alu. How about giving the ball to TJ Yeldon? That's what I would do if I was calling plays for Jacksonville.
Remember, they're giving it to Gerhart here, and he got stranded at the 1. He had 4 consecutive carries.
I should have been a play caller.
I know you
wasted my time up here in the broadcast.
I think some people would like you to. A play call. You've been offered, and you've said no. Anger to punt. Denarius Moore waving the arm. Fair caught, 48. Hang of 4.72. 40-yard punt. 7:15 in the 4th. Buffalo is down 27-16 in London. The NFL on Yahoo today, presented by Microsoft Surface Book, the ultimate laptop. The Tower of London, one of the many great sites here. 4 Buffalo turnovers, 2 Jacksonville defensive touchdowns, and each quarterback with a touchdown pass today. Reminding you that Week 7 of the NFL continues later today on CBS and Fox. Then tonight with Sunday Night Football on NBC. Check your local listings for the game in your area. Great beginning field position here from the 48, 1st and 10 for E.J. Manuel, taking the place of the injured quarterback Tyrod Taylor. Good time. Now it's gone, and there he goes. Jones coming through, making the stop in a pretty play by Avery Jones out of the University of Georgia.
You're going to see him right here. And the protection is plenty good. You get a double team on Jones. And this is 1st and 10, Kevin. You got to be smart. If it's not there, throw it away.
Loss of 6. Manuel here going deep, and he's got a receiver. It's Easley. Touchdown! He's only had a couple career receptions. 58-yard touchdown pass, and the Bills are back in business.
Well, they get the verticals, and what happens is now they're really going to hang up on the safety here. The safety has to make a decision. Do you cover the inside vertical or the outside vertical? He actually works back to the middle of the field. Perfect throw here by E.J. Manuel, and easily runs right by the corner for the touchdown. Down by 5, they got to go for 2.
Of all the Bills that could make that reception, how about Easley? My goodness. His first career touchdown reception. He only has, like I said, a couple catches in his career. They're going for 2. Manuel.
Give him a chance. You got to throw it to somebody.
They're going for Greg, who was pushed, and that will be a flag on Gratz. In the end zone as they were going for Greg. Greg and Gratz.
Defense number 27. Half the distance to the goal. Repeat the try.
That's why you throw it up. At least give him a chance. Something good will happen. Kept a little surprised they rolled E.J. Manuel, right-handed quarterback, to his left. You could have spotted the ball on either hash, and they choose to move him to his left. This is a very difficult throw. In fact, it's into the boundary. Good alert play there, though, by E.J. Manuel at the end, at least throwing it up to his tight end, Chris Gregg. Now they got another shot here at the 1-yard line. Could run it here with McCoy. That's what I would do.
McCoy. He was grabbed by Posluszny. He gets in for 2. He gets in for 2 with the extra effort. LaShawn McCoy. 3-point game, 6:33 to go. But who would have thought that Marcus Easley would come up with this huge play? Buffalo with 21 unanswered points.
It's a terrific effort, Kevin, by McCoy. He's going to get hit in the hole by Posluszny, but he's got the wherewithal to extend the ball with 2 hands and hang it over the goal line.
McCoy gets the 2, Easley on his 3rd career catch. And his first in the last couple years, known more for his special teams, comes up with his first touchdown reception, 58 yards, and a new game in London.
Isn't it amazing? You know, at one point this game was 27-3. You and I were talking about maybe this one's getting away from Buffalo. And when you have a chance and you don't put a team away, bad things happen. You let them hang around. And that's what Jacksonville has done. They've allowed Buffalo to get back in this thing.
And this is the problem with the Jacksonville team. When they've been challenged, when it's come to that moment, they've not been able to answer. Like last week, they led Houston in the 4th, 14-10. Before that, they led Tampa Bay 24-20, lost. They led Indianapolis 13-10, lost. Now they have the lead, 6:33 to go, but it is trending the other way.
But you can't get tight in these situations. You can't get conservative. You have to continue to be aggressive. I'm not just talking about the players. I'm also talking about the play callers. Give these guys a chance to make some plays. Buffalo's not going to kick an onside kick here. They're going to pound the ball back and play defense.
Jordan Gay will boot it and will sail over the head of Walters to the 20 with the touchback. Now remember, if we go back to the first half, after a 28-yard touchdown run by Yeldon, they were trying the extra point, which was no good from Jason Myers. That was his 3rd missed PAT this season alone.
Every
play in the kicking game is critical because it's either field position or points. And the young kicker, Jason Myers, is figuring that out in Jacksonville.
So Jacksonville with no first downs in the last 16 minutes of playing time, lining up, feeling the heat, up by 3, earlier up 27-3. First and 10 Bortles. Dropped Jacobs. Nick Jacobs has not caught a pass all season long, and they go to him there on a first and 10.
Well, you wonder why you put a player in that position, Kevin. Just run a little under route. He's open. He's got to make the catch. And if I'm Blake Bortles, my message to the team in the huddle is let's finish this thing off on offense. Let's not put our defense back out there. Let's take the ball, drive down the field, and score, and end this thing.
5 in the secondary for the Bills. Second down, 10 Yeldon. The dance brought down by Bradham. Takes it out to the 23 on a gain of about 3.5 maybe, depending on the spot.
And you can just feel the momentum change. You look at Buffalo's sidelines, most of the players standing up, and the energy has really changed on Buffalo's sidelines.
Now where the pressure comes from Rex Ryan. 3rd and 7.
Oh, jeez.
He is surprised by the snap, and he's quickly devoured on the play by Hughes, and flags are on the field.
They're going to get a break there.
Yep,
They're going to call
sure
a false
are.
start. That could have been a train
There's no
wreck.
play prior to the snap. False start. Offense number 76. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
You're going to see Luke Jokel right here. He's going to move a little bit. And then Bortles is actually going up to Stefan Wisniewski trying to change the protection. He's as surprised as anybody to get that ball in his belly. Well, that could have been a real disaster. Well, let's see what Rex does here, Kevin. 3rd and 11.
Buckle up.
He may show pressure and bail. But nope, it's
they're coming. Bortles throws it up, and it's picked off by Graham. Corey Graham comes the other way. Corey Graham inside the 10. He broke a tackle and takes it in a pick 6. A Buffalo touchdown. The Bills have taken the lead. Flag in the end zone.
Sportsmanlike conduct. Illegal celebration. Illegal demonstration. On the intercepting team, 15-yard penalty will be assessed on the kickoff.
Well, Allen Robinson's going to run the in route. Blake Bortles thinks he's going to go to the post. The problem is he doesn't feel the near safety. And the near safety never retreats to the middle of the field. Corey Graham just hangs out on the hash. And Blake Bortles never feels him, never sees the throw. Late throws down the middle are never a good thing for a quarterback. Boy, you just can't make that play in that situation.
27 unanswered Buffalo points. Gus Bradley talked to us the other day. He says, we're trying to figure out how to win one-possession games. And they've let another one slip. The extra point. Carpenter. A 4-point lead with 5:21 to play. It's the same scene. It's the same song. Different verse, unfortunately, for Jacksonville. 15 points for the Buffalo Bills in a minute 12.
And in a critical situation, Kevin, you have two young players, the quarterback, Blake Bortles, and the receiver, Allen Robinson, clearly not on the same page. Well, you know, the excessive celebration is another mistake for Buffalo, Kevin, a team that's been penalized more than any team in football. Now they'll be kicking off from the 20. And now you're going to give Jacksonville great field position.
Jacksonville was down early to the Bills, 3-0. Then they scored 27 unanswered points. So Buffalo down 27-3. has come back to score 28 unanswered points.
And remember now, we saw E.J. Manuel get off to a really rocky start, but keep his poise and kind of battle through some adversity. We're going to find out a lot about Blake Bortles here in the last 5 minutes. Can you flip the page? Can you come back from a bad mistake?
With the kickoff by Gay. It'll be grabbed eventually, scooped in here by Walters. And he is down about the 16-yard line. And remember, on top of all this, at Jacksonville with just one timeout left. 5:19. Buffalo has 3. Bortles and the Jaguars are down by 4 after leading. There's a player down for the Bills. That's Alex Carrington. Three second-half leads lost this season.
Well, you check out Blake Bortles' numbers, Kevin. They haven't been great. 9 of 23, 107 yards, a touchdown and interception. You got to get him going here now. And you don't have to come out here throwing it. You've got plenty of time. The guy you can't forget about is T.J. Yeldon. He's been your go-to guy. 20 carries, 116 yards, and a touchdown. And I'm not just talking about the running game. Don't forget about T.J. Yeldon in the passing game.
The player down, I incorrectly gave you the name Carrington. It was Boom Herron. And he gets off. Good to see him on his feet. Don't forget, too, the goal line stand in the third quarter when the score is 27-13. Huge by Buffalo. On the 16, 1st and 10, Bortles. And he finds his receiver, Allen Robinson. Gilmore, the tackle, and the move takes him to the 36, and he picks up 20, another first down.
And they come right back to him. I love it. You see Stephon Gilmore, he's in the bail technique. Robinson is wide open. Really nice job there by Greg Olsen. Not being conservative, not running the football on first down, giving Blake Bortles a chance to get back on the saddle.
Allen Robinson today, 5 catches and 80 yards with a touchdown. First down in 17 minutes. 1st and 10. All the way. Bortles. Beat it. There's Carrington. But really the pressure came from Duke Williams. Loss of 2.
You got to understand the situation in the game. You know, throwing the ball away on first down is not the end of the world. You got to ask yourself, find me a completion. It's man-to-man coverage. Nobody's open. Throw it away and move on to 2nd down.
You under gun? Gun. Hey, 53, loosen. 53, loosen.
2nd and 12. For Robinson, the back shoulder throw, and he got the defensive back. Darby turned around. First down strike. 18-yard pickup. They take it to the Buffalo 48.
Wow, this is a tremendous catch by Robinson. And a great throw by Blake Bortles, just giving him a chance. I mean, Darby is in great position. He just literally fits that one in there perfectly.
The 22-year-old Robinson is just shy of 100 yards. He's caught passes. Start this all-important drive for Jacksonville of 20 and 15. 1st and 10.
It's trailed by 4, Kevin, with just one timeout. You ask yourself, is Jacksonville in 4-down territory?
Bortles. He's looking for Thomas, who got caught up in the coverage with Darby, incomplete.
That wasn't a really good effort by Thomas, Kevin. He's coming out of the game. I hate to see this. I don't know if he's hurt, but he did not do a good job on that route. He was throttling it down, slowing down at the top of the route. It's a guy that's missed a lot of time. You got to ask yourself, where's his conditioning late in the game?
It's the first 4 games because of a hand injury in preseason. 2nd and 10. Bills in the nickel.
Comes the blitz.
Bortles, incomplete. Held it. Coverage by Duke Williams. Well, the missed extra point, which we just showed you earlier, is obviously looming large now. After the Yeldon touchdown run in the first half, third miss this year by Jason Myers. Otherwise, it'd be 31-28.
Now they have defenses that look the same, that are different. They've been showing the blitz, and they've been coming. And they also have been showing the blitz and bailing. And now you're going to see Bortles. He's going to bring in some extra bodies to block him up, and he's going to take a shot. Oh, Hughes jumps off sides again. Wow. But they get a delay of game. They sure did. Delay of game, Jacksonville.
The play clock expired. Delay of game, offense. There's no foul for a false start or the offense offside. 5-yard penalty.
Now it goes to 3rd and 15.
You can see the play clock there. And again, Bortles trying to get the communication out. They don't get it off. The one guy that was looking at the play clock was Jerry Hughes. Blake Bortles wasn't. The play clock is way up high here in the stadium. It's not in the vision of the quarterback. As a quarterback, Kevin, I never like to leave the field. See how high that is up there in the that end zone? Really high.
Sometimes tough to find. 3rd and 15. And outside, incomplete. Flag is thrown. Nickel Roby was over there covering Brian Walters. Jacksonville, by the way, in the second half has been penalized 8 times.
Pass interference.
Buffalo.
Defense number 37.
Is going to pick this up.
Automatic first down.
And that keeps the drive alive.
Well, that's a critical mistake in that situation. You got him in a 3rd and long, and Roby's in great position, Kevin. This is an example of a cornerback just panicking. You're right there. He's actually trying to make a play on the ball. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't see him pushing. He's trying to catch the football. He's got just as much right to the football as does the receiver.
17-yard penalty in essence, and Bortles, who is 2 of 11 through the air in this 4th, 1st and 10. Big hit by Preston Brown, leveled on Brian Walters with a gain of 5 to the 31.
Well, it's definitely 4-down territory, and Blake Bortles has to understand that. You don't have to get it all in 1st or 2nd down. Even in a 3rd down situation, you got to know that you got 4 downs. Greg Olsen has to tell him that in his headset.
Mike 52. Mike 52. Green 80. Green is up.
With a 2nd down and 5, Bortles. On the run, needs the 26. He's got his receiver. It was caught. It's a touchdown. Allen Hurns. And Jacksonville has taken the lead with 2:16 to go.
Question is, Kevin, is he in bounds? It was an unbelievable effort by Allen Hurns. And a really nice throw on the move, moving to his left from Blake Bortles. Question is, does...
Elbow?
Oh, yeah, I think he's got that left shoulder down. That's a very nice call by the official. Look at the official. He is in perfect position to make this call. Wow, what a tremendous effort by Allen Hurns.
And Bortles, as you say, running to his left.
Well, he made that great throw to his left last week in the corner of the end zone against the Texans.
Here's the extra point. This is important. And he got it to make it a field goal difference. With 2:16 to go, and Buffalo has all 3 timeouts. But Hurns, with his first catch since the first quarter, lassos one from 31 yards away. As Blake Bortles orchestrates a drive which covers 84 yards in a little over 3 minutes for the Jaguars, who found themselves behind by 4 and score the touchdown.
Well, that showed me something right there from Blake Bortles, really, in that Jacksonville team, Kevin. They've got some heart. Now you got Buffalo in a great situation. You've got all 3 timeouts left. You've got 2 minutes and 16 seconds. You got the 2-minute warning. You've got plenty of time. And these are the situations, Kevin, that you walk through You practice, you rehearse every week these 2-minute situations late in the game.
Just to touch on that last drive one more time, Rich. What about the penalty on Nickel Roby, which in essence was a 17-yard penalty with interference that's kept the drive alive for the Jaguars?
Penalties have been huge for Buffalo this year, Kevin. They've got more than any team in football.
The ensuing kickoff by Myers. Heron, who we just saw walk off the field under his own power, back out there, retrieves that, leaves it in the end zone.
Man, what a wild fourth quarter it's been here in London. Really nice throw here from E.J. Manuel to Marcus Easley. Bortles, he comes back and makes a poor decision. Throws the ball late down the middle. Corey Graham's able not only intercept it, but return it all the way for the touchdown. And then Blake Bortles, as we just saw, brings his team back on a 7-play, 84-yard drive, capped off by the touchdown throw to Allen Hurns.
3 timeouts, 1st and 10 Manuel. Woods scooped it. He got it right in front of Grotz, and the gain to the 26 and a pickup of 6.
We're just going to take the 2-minute warning here and talk about it.
He will step aside. Bills have the ball, but down by 3. We're at the 2-minute warning, and Jacksonville has come back. We're down 31-27. Buffalo is on top, just as Buffalo had come back when they were down 27-3. 27 unanswered points by Jacksonville in the game, and 28 unanswered Buffalo points. With 3 timeouts, 2nd down 4. Manuel escapes and runs and needs the 30. Got the first down. Plus Lesney chases him out of bounds. Got to the 32. Runs for 6.
Really nice decision there, Kevin, by E.J. Manuel. Really nowhere to go with the football. Does the next best thing. Makes a play with his legs. And that's something that you can't forget about. He's so good. You've got to be decisive. Be willing to pull it down. Make a play or two outside the pocket.
Hey, man!
1st and 10. Got a block that time for McCoy. He hits Woods again, who got the spin with the broken tackle. Telvin Smith gets him, gain of 9, up to the 41. First timeout taken by the Bills. 2 left. Clock at 1:42. What are these discussions like, Rich, as you walk over to the sideline?
Well,
Kevin Carpenter getting ready.
Well, if I'm E.J. Manuel, I'm not thinking about field goal. I've got a couple timeouts. I've got a minute 45. I've got some players that can make some plays down the field. I want to continue to be aggressive, but I want to be smart. Can't take a sack, throwing the ball away, not the end of the world. Just give somebody a chance to make a play.
Carpenter, by the way, 2 for 3 from 50 yards
coverage right outside. Somebody take a shot.
2nd down 1. McCoy.
Good, great tackle.
Telvin Smith.
Well, he's been all over the place today, hasn't he?
With another tackle, he's got a bunch. He may be in double digits in that category. He has a pick 6 today. No gain on the play. He stopped them, so it's 3rd and 1.
Short yardage and goal line's been a big story in this game.
Manuel.
Ooh, doesn't get it.
I don't think he did either. I think he's short, and the ball did come out, and a fumble on the play.
Was this forward progress? Are they going to rule forward progress? The one official right here in the middle of the screen, he's spotting. He's keeping the spot.
Evans came out of the pack.
Look at that conversation right there between the line judge and the referee. He signaled forward progress. I saw that right away. Watch this.
The ruling on the field is that forward progress was stopped prior to the ball coming loose. It'll be 4th down for Buffalo.
Look at Gus Bradley. He's going to go. He's going to go ballistic.
Not reviewable.
Either way, Kevin, E.J. Manuel was very careless with the football.
It is not a turnover, and their offense stays on the field with a 4th and 1.
And obviously, forward progress. You can't challenge forward progress. Regardless, you got to get your shorts back on straight and make a play here on 4th down.
Timeout.
Oh, jeez, that's crazy.
It's a second.
Boy, well, they're going to run the quarterback sneak. They ran it before, and the center and left guard get blown up. Now you've got forward progress, and you see, I think that's Clemens rips it out. Well, he's made a ton of really nice plays.
Watch Derek Marks. Watch Marks down here grab his legs and not let go.
The ball
and then the ball, yeah, you're right. Well, what would be up your sleeve here, Rich? 4th and 1.
Well, I got a quarterback right now that's a little bit iffy. I also have number 25 in the backfield with Sean McCoy. I got to somehow, I got to make sure that he gets the ball in his hands.
4th and 1. And knocked away. Play right there, Aaron Colvin. Knocked it away from Hogan. 53 seconds to play. Each team with a timeout. Jacksonville will take over on downs.
You know what I can't understand? You've got a right-handed quarterback. This is the second time in a critical situation you've got a quarterback rolling to his left. He throws the ball behind the receiver. He's late with the throw. I don't get it. Look, he doesn't even have his shoulder squared to the target. That is a very difficult throw for a right-handed quarterback.
Victory formation. Coming in with 4 consecutive losses. He falls to a knee. Jacksonville is circling over a victory.
Well, that timeout that they took there on 4th down. I mean, what happened there? And then they changed the play. Really amazing. Too many mistakes. Too many mistakes. You don't come over to London, Kevin, and turn the ball over 4 times and expect to win. Penalties were, again, a story today. 8 penalties in critical situations. What about Jacksonville?
Well, the whole theme was trying to win one-possession games because they've lost so many close games after leads in the 4th quarter.
How about this? Jacksonville had 27 points in a little over 5.5 minutes in the first half. And they get a 3-minute drive in the 4th quarter. Other than that, Buffalo pretty much dominated the other 51 minutes of the game. And yet they're going to get on that plane tomorrow and head back to Buffalo with another loss. They've lost 3 of their last 4. And they're in real danger.
They'll take a bye, and then they'll get Tyrod Taylor back, their starting quarterback, and begin the second half of the season.
They've got a lot of ground to make up on both the Jets and the Patriots in the AFC East.
Buffalo will drop to 3-4. Jacksonville's 4-game losing streak will come to a close. They will go to 2-5 with the wonderful knockaway by Aaron Colvin. You just saw him. Tough day for Ryan and his Bills. 4 turnovers. And missed opportunity by both teams. But Jacksonville hangs in there and they get the win. And it's a game-winning touchdown pass of 31 yards for Blake Bortles to his wide receiver, Allen Hurns.
That was a big-time throw, Kevin, in a critical situation.
Let's go down to Jamie.
Alan, when we spoke with your coach on Friday, he preached patience with this team. How much patience did this win take today in London?
It took a lot of patience, you know. We came out the second half kind of flat, wasn't moving the ball well, and wasn't finishing, you know. Our first drive after halftime, you know, we marched all the way down the field, but we didn't score and things like that. But the main thing for us is just finish drives and stay patient.
Well, you certainly finished that drive at the end of the game here. Will you walk us through that finished with your unbelievable catch for that touchdown?
It was a great job all around. The offensive line gave Blake a lot of time to throw the ball, and Blake just kept the play alive. Always just scrambling to the left. I made an awesome catch, but it's just a great job all around by the offense.
And your defense kept you in the game when you exploded offensively, but they came back and they were the difference makers today. How much pride does that give that group?
A lot. Second half, they had a great job, as far as just getting us the ball and things like that. On the offense, we got to do a better job of not going 3 and outs because, they had some long drives, and we got to give them guys a chance to rest and things like that, but you just got to stay the course.
And London becomes your hometown crowd almost. You guys feed off of this a lot when you come here?
Oh, most definitely, man. The energy is crazy here. It's an awesome environment and things like that, so it's going to get better and better.
I got to tell you, when we talked to Gus Bradley, he had such a positive energy about him. Does he keep you guys going when things get tough?
Oh, always. Since day one, he was always a positive guy, and that means a lot to us. We coming to work every day. Every day not going to be our best day, but to feel that energy day in, day out, it means a lot to the players because, having a positive guy there, it means a lot.
Thanks. Have a great flight back and a good bye week.
All right, thank you.
Jacksonville had gone 17 minutes without a first down. Then the game-winning drive. There was a crucial penalty on Nikel Roby. They kept the Jacksonville drive alive. Robinson had caught a couple of passes early in the drive of 20 and 15 yards. Then the game-winning touchdown pass of 31, Bortles to Hearns. And when we began this game over 3 hours ago, Rich Gannon talked about the 2 young receivers for Jacksonville, Robinson and Hearns, making a difference, and Rich, sure enough, they did again tonight.
Well, Kevin, I like these 2 young receivers coming into today's game. First of all, they have size. They're both 6'3". They're both, one's 215, the other one's 205 pounds, and they can run. And they've already combined for over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns. And you talk about receptions of 25 yards or more. That's where these guys really shine. I think they have 12 or 13 between the 2 of them. And I think the future is bright in Jacksonville when you look at this offense. They've got a quarterback that I think showed some great resiliency today when things weren't really going great. He made that big throw at the end. But those 2 receivers, Robinson and Hearns, and don't forget about T.J. Yeldon, 116 yards rushing against the 4th-ranked run defense in football. That was a terrific effort by a bunch of second-year players.
Yeldon had a touchdown run. Telvin Smith had a pick 6. Clemens had a fumble recovery touchdown. Bortles, the 2 touchdown passes, including the game winner. The 4th quarter was wild.
It really was, and I thought that this may do it for the Buffalo Bills. Really change the momentum in the game. Easily gets the touchdown, and then right here, the ugly interception. Corey Graham returns it. At this point, Kevin, I really question whether or not Jacksonville could get back in this, but Blake Bortles didn't panic. We talked about not having a panic button at the quarterback position. Makes a terrific throw in the corner of the end zone to Hearns, and of course, they seal it with a terrific play by their defense.
We also talked earlier, too, about the different travel schedules coming over to London and playing, and there are logistics that have to be certainly met. And Jacksonville had come over, Buffalo had come over early. Jacksonville came over late in the week.
Really a much different approach. Now, Jacksonville was the team that had the experience. They'd come over in the past on Sunday night, came over on Monday night. This year, they really came over late. When you and I visited with them, they traveled Thursday night, and they slept on the plane. They were told not to do any work. And then when we saw them on Friday afternoon, they had come over Friday. They went right to meetings, right to practice, more meetings. By the time you and I visited with them on Friday, they were exhausted. I was worried about whether or not this team would come in and really play well today, and they did. And Buffalo was a rested team. So we had 2 teams that really got after it, had different approaches, but turnovers were a big story in this game, and mistakes and penalties by some young players in critical situations.